Chapter 208. Everyone looked at Fang Yan in astonishment. They didn't understand why he hated Qin Dahai so much. He didn't want to give up so easily. I know it must be difficult for you to understand my thoughts, Fang Yan said, looking at Li Mingqiang and Zhou Xian. Director Qin was the mediator and Zhou Xian was the support. Qin Dahai's attitude was sincere, and he drank a few glasses of white wine to apologize. Moreover, he didn't give face to his father in front of a student. It must have left a deep shadow in his heart. He must have a deep grudge against me. According to normal people's thinking, I should look at the big picture and make the big thing small. I should let go of the past and pretend that nothing happened. Then we can eat and drink together. It's a perfect meeting. Even if it's just a superficial disguise, I should still do it. But I can't forgive you, Fang Yan said. To be honest, when I first came to Rosefinch, not only did I have conflicts with Teacher Qin, but I also had conflicts with Director Li. Li Mingqiang looked embarrassed and said, yes, at that time we didn't know each other very well, so. Li Mingqiang secretly regretted it. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have agreed to let Qin Dahai get involved in this matter. Although he was now on Lu Chaoga's side, he had, after all, offended Fang Yan. The other party wasn't a guy who liked to play by the rules. Breaking the thin layer of protection in front of everyone was undoubtedly a hard slap in his face. Fang Yan waved his hand, indicating that Li Mingqiang didn't need to explain. He said, Director Li and I should belong to the faction struggle. Director Li is Director Zheng's man, and I am Director Lu's man. Director Zheng's son has a problem with me, and Director Zheng also has a problem with me. I can completely understand you trying to kick me out of the school. Teacher Qin also tried to kick me out of the school. I can also accept this. You don't like someone and you want to see what the eye doesn't see. I don't find it strange at all. Because I didn't like you at that time, and I also hoped that you would suddenly make a mistake and get fired. Director Li wants to kick me out, and so does Professor Qin. However, I have forgiven Director Li Mingqiang. Why am I not willing to forgive Teacher Qin? Fang Yan looked at Qin Dahai and said, because I think your methods are too dirty. Teacher Qin, do you still remember what happened at the Sparrow Bridge that night? Qin Tao, Li Yang and Jing Guodong made a female student pretend that she was being bullied, and then lured me into taking the bait. To be honest, this matter is too dark. Even now, when I think about it, I still feel a chill in my heart and soul, and it's hard to quell my anger. Qin Dahai's lips trembled, but no words came out. Fang Yan was too smart. Extra explanations would only make people feel more disgusted. What kind of hatred do we have between us? Why would you set me up like this? If I wasn't me, if it were any other teacher, if I were Zhou Xian. Hearing Fang Yan mention the past, Zhou Xian's expression was also extremely ugly. How could he not be angry? How could he not hate them? No one knew better than him what kind of consequences it was, and no one understood better than him what kind of feeling it was. Anger, hatred, destruction, despair, and having nothing left. If Fang Yan wasn't Fang Yan, if Fang Yan had been successfully set up like him, then at this moment would Fang Yan still be sitting here eating and chatting with them? Because he had experienced that kind of thing, because he had suffered the consequences of that matter, because those few years were worse than death, because his family was broken up, Zhou Jian's heart was filled with hatred. He hated Jing Guodong, Li Yang and Qin Tao. He hated Qin Dahai, Li Mingqiang and Jing Tiancheng. He hated all the B***stards who participated in this matter and ruined his reputation. However, he knew that his ability was limited and his strength was weak. Even if he had hatred, he could only suppress it in the bottom of his heart. Because he still had to work, because he still had to eat. He drank and chatted with them and he called them brothers. He told himself that a man should be flexible and everything was for the sake of survival. However, Fang Yan chose a more extreme and direct way to deal with it. He didn't feel wronged, he didn't pretend to be polite, and he would never forgive. Mr. Fang, this matter was done by us, and it has nothing to do with my father. Qin Tao explained aloud. Qin Tao, you don't have to explain. Fang Yan interrupted Qin Tao's words and said, there are some things that everyone knows. It doesn't make sense for you to want to put all the blame on yourself. Teacher is not as stupid as you think. Have you thought about it? If you had succeeded in that incident, what would have happened to me? My reputation would be ruined and I would have nothing left. No matter where I went, I would be ridiculed and pointed at my back. This approach was tantamount to completely destroying a person's life. There would be no more hope. Zheng Guodong got the punishment he deserved. Qin Tao and Li Yang performed well later, and the most important thing is that you are just an immature child. I am very angry that you did this kind of thing, but I am willing to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Teacher Chen, you have decades of work experience and you are mature and quick-witted. You plan this kind of thing behind the scenes. Have you thought about the nature of this? Qin Dahai's face was ashen and the hand holding the wine glass was trembling. The wine kept spilling out and his mood at this time was extremely unstable. Fang Yan's voice was like a pair of scissors, a sharp sword, cutting open wounds on his skin and flesh, and then he used a sharp arrow to cut open his flesh from those wounds, peeling off the whole skin from the body. He was like a skinned clown standing naked and dripping with blood in front of Fang Yan, standing in front of everyone. Teacher Qin, at that time you were more powerful. You had connections and backing, so when you made your move, you were unscrupulous and did everything you could. Yes, now that I have some advantage, you are worried that I will retaliate, so you invited me to dinner and you apologized to me. If you once again have the upper hand, or if I accept your apology, I will become another Jing Tianqing standing behind you. If there are other teachers who have offended you, what kind of method will you use to deal with them? That kind of evil thing or something even dirtier than that will happen again? Teacher Qin, tell me, should I forgive you? Fang Yan dragged Qin Tao up from the ground and said, in the future, don't involve children in adult matters. The muscles on Li Mingxiang's face twitched again. At that time when Qin Dahai wanted to bring Qin Tao out, he felt that it was somewhat inappropriate. What's the use of letting children get involved in adult matters? But Qin Dahai said that Qin Tao was Fang Yan's student, and letting him follow to serve tea and toast was what he should do. Li Mingxiang thought that if Fang Yan valued friendship, seeing that Qin Tao was his student, he would have a better impression of Qin Dahai. Unexpectedly, it backfired. Not only did Fang Yan not see the face of Qin Tao being Qin Dahai's son, but he was even more displeased with Qin Dahai for playing his own son card. Qin Dahai, why are you so unlucky? Fang Yan walked in front, and Qin Tao followed behind Fang Yan with his head down. The teacher slowly walked in the direction of the school. Do you hate me? Fang Yan asked. No. Qin Tao said. Do you hate your father? Don't hate him either. Fang Yan said, because he is your father. Mr. Fang, I don't know if I should hate him or not. I understand the reason you said and I can understand the words you said. I know what you said is right. I am angry at my father and angry at myself. But I don't know what to do. When he begged you for your forgiveness, I felt that my father was very pitiful. This world is like this. We pay attention to the law of the jungle and we also pay attention to karma. The strong eat the weak and what you sow will reap what you sow. The reason why your father is pitiful is that he was too unscrupulous before. Everyone should be punished for doing something wrong. If I forgive him this time, then he feels that the cost of the crime is nothing. At most he will apologize again and be forgiven again. What kind of path will he eventually take? What about those who were framed by him? I can't forgive him and I don't dare to forgive him. Because I am worried that I will be hurt by such a person again, and I am also worried that another me will be framed by such a person. Fang Yan stopped and turned to look at Qin Tao, saying, you are my student. So there is a sentence I want to give you. I don't ask you to be a righteous and brave person, but at least, please be a sunny and kind person. I don't believe in God, but I believe that if you do too many bad things, you will meet someone who can fix you. Qin Tao nodded seriously and said, Mr. Fang, I understand. I know I was wrong. I will not let you down in the future. Fang Yan patted Qin Tao's shoulder and said, also, don't easily kneel in the future. Kneel to the sky, kneel to the earth, kneel to your parents, kneel to your teacher. Teacher, this is not shameful, Qin Tao said. Fang Yan's expression was stunned and he said, this flattery really hit my heart. Good job, keep it up. The master and disciple looked at each other and laughed. When Fang Yan opened the door and entered the house, he found that there were guests in the house. Zhang Qian and the woman were sitting on the sofa in the living room waiting. Seeing Fang Yan come back, the two quickly stood up to greet him, their faces full of uneasiness. Chapter 209. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, those who come are guests, sit down and talk. Zhang Qian didn't sit. He stood in front of Fang Yan with a face full of guilt and said, Master, I didn't think something like this would happen and I even dragged you into it. I promise you nothing happened between me and Sun Li. We are innocent, I swear to you on my honor and reputation. Fang Yan looked at the two of them and said, then tell me what's going on? Fang Yan was willing to give him a chance to explain. This made Zhang Chen very happy. He was determined to become Fang Yan's disciple. If the incident with Chongping caused Fang Yan to misunderstand his character, then his path to becoming Fang Yan's disciple would be completely blocked. However, when it came to explaining the past, Zhang Chen's expression was full of sorrow and he couldn't speak for a long time. How could he pick up the grains that had rotted in the mud one by one? Sun Li sighed and said, "Let me explain." Zhang Chen loved martial arts since he was a child, and he learned kung fu from Sun Rulong, a martial arts master in Huaqing. Sun Rulong was very fond of Zhang Chen's talent and thought highly of him. He taught him everything he knew. Zhang Chen gradually became famous in Huaqing's mixed martial arts world, and he quickly became the symbol of the Rulong martial arts school with Sun Rulong as its master. Sun Rulong had a son and a daughter. His son, Sun Chong, avoided martial arts like a scorpion, while his daughter, Sun Li, loved martial arts as much as her life. Sun Li's kung fu wasn't good, but she had a good impression of Zhang Chen, who was highly skilled in martial arts. The two of them gradually became an enviable couple. Later, Sun Rulong became old and weak and couldn't teach any disciples, so he handed the Rulong martial arts school to his most valued disciple, Zhang Chen. When Zhang Chen opened his dojo to accept disciples, Chongping was one of the first disciples to become a disciple of Zhang Chen. When Chongping first arrived, he was very low-key. He was diligent, eager to learn, and devoted to martial arts. He was extremely respectful to his master Zhang Chen, and was generous to his fellow disciples and his master's wife, Sun Li. He won everyone's favor, including Zhang Chen and Sun Li, who liked Chongping very much at that time. Even the teacher Gong Sun Rulong, who no longer cared about the affairs of the martial arts club, was sent to the United States, France, England, Germany, and other countries at Chongping's expense. The itinerary was meticulous and thoughtful, and Gong Sun Rulong was full of praise for this disciple of his. What he didn't expect was that Chongping had long coveted Sun Li's beauty and graceful figure. When Zhang Chen represented the Rulong Martial Arts School in Thailand to participate in a national mixed martial arts competition, Chongping invited Sun Li to the martial arts school under the guise of asking his master's wife for some pointers. Sun Li was so angry that she told her father, Sun Rulong. Sun Rulong was worried that the family's dirty linen would be exposed. Chongping knelt in front of him and sincerely apologized, saying that he did it because he liked Sun Li from the bottom of his heart. He was willing to marry Sun Li and love her for the rest of his life. He wouldn't let her suffer even the slightest bit. Besides, Sun Li and Chongping were already husband and wife. If Zhang Chen found out about this, it would be difficult for the two of them to be together again. It was better for Sun Li and Chongping to be a happy couple. Sun Li's brother, Sun Chong, was even more direct. After accepting a luxurious villa from Chongping, he told Sun Li that he would recognize Chongping as his brother-in-law. Moreover, since Sun Li and Chongping had already slept together, Sun Chong was already his brother-in-law. When Zhang Chen returned home after his victory, he found that everything around him had changed. His beloved girlfriend was engaged to his most valued disciple, and he, the person involved, was not informed by anyone. He was so angry that he wanted to destroy the world. One night when Chongping was sending Sun Li home, Zhang Chen blocked his way and beat him up, almost beating him to death in the dojo. Sun Li was worried that Zhang Chen would kill someone and cause trouble, so she knocked him out with a spear from behind. From then on, Zhang Chen was depressed and distanced himself from the glory of Hua City's mixed martial arts world, becoming an unknown martial arts teacher. Chongping's beating by Zhang Chen was not without repercussions. Because Sun Li was molested by Chongping, Zhang Chen ruthlessly kicked Chongping's penis a few times. From then on, Chongping developed a phobia of erectile dysfunction in front of women. Until now, they had not given birth to any children. Chongping did not reflect on himself and pushed all the blame onto Sun Li. He beat and scolded her, and Sun Li's life was miserable. After Zhang Chen heard about Sun Li's life, he went to talk to Chongping again. Chongping suspected that Sun Li and Zhang Chen had rekindled their relationship and that Zhang Chen wanted to negotiate with him to show off. His attitude towards Sun Li was even worse. This time, Chongping came to settle the score with Zhang Chen because he had monitored Sun Li's phone calls and found that Sun Li and Zhang Chen had a long call history. Why not divorce? Fang Yan looked at Sun Li and asked. Sun Li was a pitiful woman and Zhang Chen was a pitiful man. The entanglement of these two people's fate was really regrettable. I can't, Sun Li said. The Chang family is rich and powerful. I've asked for a divorce several times, but they rejected me every time. Zhang Chen looked at Fang Yan and said, I've tried. But nothing worked. They also said that if I dared to ask for a divorce again, they would send me to a mental hospital for 3 years. When I came out, I would become a real mental patient. At that time, it would be even more impossible for me to divorce, Sun Li said with a pained expression. They've gone too far, Fang Yan said angrily. That's right. How hateful. Junior martial uncle, let's go beat him up. Fang Yingying was also filled with righteous indignation after listening to the story. Was there any justice left in this world? Why me? Fang Haohen asked with a puzzled expression. Because I still have to listen to the story, Fang Yingying said. Sun Li looked at Fang Yan and said with tears in her eyes, Mr. Fang, everything is my fault. If I didn't marry Chongping, if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for Chongping, then this afternoon wouldn't have happened. Zhangchen is a good man. Not being able to marry him is the biggest regret of my life. I've been like this for the rest of my life, but Zhangchen is different. He no longer has anything to do with me. We haven't been in contact for many years. He found out from a former student that my life isn't going well, so he wanted to help me. He likes to learn martial arts and he really wants you to be his disciple. If possible, I hope this incident won't affect your opinion of him. I believe he's a very good disciple. He's very talented and he definitely won't let you down. Sun Li looked at Zhang Chen and said with determination, From now on, you don't have to care about my affairs anymore. Don't think about it, don't listen, pretend you don't know. We've stopped interacting for a long time and we won't contact each other again. I know what your dream is, so try your best to achieve it. I wish you success. As she spoke, large teardrops rolled down her cheeks. Then she bowed deeply to Fang Yan, turned around and ran out the door. Zhang Chen glanced at Fang Yan, then quickly chased after her. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen looked at each other. Then Fang Yingying said, Zhang Chen is so pitiful. Yeah, Fang Haohen echoed. So pitiful. Fang Yan was silent, as if he didn't understand the meaning behind the two brothers' words. Half an hour later, Zhang Chen returned. Sun Li was nowhere to be seen. Fang Yan stood up and said, Come take a walk with me in the yard. Zhang Chen nodded and followed Fang Yan out. Do you still like her? Fang Yan asked. Zhang Chen was stunned. He didn't expect Fang Yan to ask him such a question. He nodded and then shook his head. You don't know either? Fang Yan asked. I don't know, Zhang Chen said. In the beginning I hated her. I thought it was because of her that my life was ruined. Then I tried to forget her. I didn't want to be in such pain anymore. I knew her life wasn't going well and I was worried about her. I just don't know if I still like her. You still like her, Fang Yan said with absolute certainty. Zhang Chen raised his head and looked at Fang Yan in confusion. He had asked himself this question countless times, but he couldn't get a definite answer. Why did Fang Yan come to this conclusion so easily? Your fists are too heavy, Fang Yan said. Not only is your fist heavy, your body is heavy, your thoughts are heavy, and your entire being is heavy. You're so heavy that you can't breathe, you're so heavy that you can't run, and you're so heavy that you can't use your fist. You have too much baggage and you can't let go of her. Master, do you know what Tai Chi is? Fang Yan asked. Zhang Chen shook his head. An old man was practicing Tai Chi in the park with great strength. At this time a young man came and said, Grandpa, you're so good at martial arts, how did you practice? The old man said, I'll stand still and try hitting me with all your strength. So the young man punched the old man hard. And then? Zhang Chen asked excitedly. It was an inspirational story of an ignorant teenager who met a hidden master in the park, and then became a master of Tai Chi. He liked to listen to such a story of a loser's counterattack. This was also the ideal life he had always been looking forward to. The young man was blackmailed of 20,000 yuan, Fang Yan said. Now do you know what Tai Chi is? Fang Yan asked. Zhang Chen shook his head again and said, I still don't know. This story tells us that if you want to learn Tai Chi you must choose the right master. Only when the master is strong can the disciple learn real skills. The master only has posture but no momentum. Not only can the disciple not learn anything, but he may also be blackmailed of 20,000 yuan. Master, what do you mean? Zhang Chen thought hard, but he still didn't understand what Fang Yan was trying to say. Fang Yan looked at Zhang Chen helplessly and said, "Now you can worship as a master." Chapter 210. The familiar street, the familiar shop, the familiar bun shop, the black-faced girl, the familiar milk tea girl. After so many days he returned to the small courtyard of Jiang Qin's house. His heart was filled with emotions. When Fang Yan stood at the entrance of the courtyard and looked around, Sister Li had already come out of the house to welcome him. She said with a smile, "Mr. Fang is here. Come in and have a seat." "Sister Li, are you busy?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. "I'm just a housewife. What can I be busy with?" Sister Li stepped forward and pulled Fang Yan's hand. She said, "I know that Mr. Fang is busy, so I still invited Mr. Fang to come over. Mr. Fang, you can't be angry with Sister Li." The housewife wasn't too scheming, but she was very familiar with welcoming guests. Sister Li's attitude towards Fang Yan was warm and polite. It was as if they got along well in the past and nothing had happened. "That's exactly what I wanted. I haven't eaten the dishes cooked by Sister Li for a long time." Fang Yan said with a smile. "If you come every day, I will cook for you every day," Sister Li said straightforwardly. Fang Yan smiled and didn't answer. He knew that if he really came every day, perhaps Sister Li would raise the mop to chase him away again. After Sister Li poured a cup of hot tea for Fang Yan, she sat down on the sofa opposite Fang Yan. "Fang Yan, Sister Li asked you to come over. There's something I want to discuss with you." Sister Li looked at Fang Yan sincerely and said softly, "Sister Li, if there's anything, just say it." Fang Yan said, "If I can do it, I will help you. If I can't do it, I will also tell you the reasons why I can't do it." It's like this. When Jiang Qin came back these days, he kept telling me that he wanted to drop out of school and learn the Guzheng Yangqin. He also said that he wanted to enter the entertainment circle and become a big star in the future. Sister Li looked worried and embarrassed. She said, "How can that be? Jiang Qin had one more year before the senior high school entrance examination, so he couldn't relax at this time. Otherwise, not to mention a famous high school like Rosefinch, I'm afraid I won't be able to get into any other high school." Holding the teacup, Fang Yan looked at Sister Li and asked patiently, "Sister Li, have you talked to Jiang Qin?" "We talked about it." "Why hadn't they talked about it before?" "His father and I went to talk to him twice, but this child was stubborn since he was young. Once he decided on something, it was hard to change his mind. Although we don't let go, we're afraid that she'll do something extreme. She said that there's a big star called Xia Tian. Was it that Xia Tian who agreed to accept her as his disciple?" "Yes." Fang Yan nodded. "I know about this. I know about this Xia Tian. She's very famous. I've also watched her TV series. However, how could Jiang Qin know Xia Tian?" "Was it the Xia Tian who made the movie?" "The Xia Tian that Jiang Qin knew was the Xia Tian who made the movie." Fang Yan explained. "Xia Tian is my friend. When Jiang Qin and her classmates called to invite me to sing, I took Xia Tian with me and then we got to know each other. Xia Tian felt that Jiang Qin had a lot of potential, so she wanted to let Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin follow her to make music." In order to prevent Sister Li from misunderstanding his relationship with Jiang Qin, Fang Yan tried his best to explain the whole story clearly. Of course, it doesn't mean that after dropping out of school, the two of them can immediately become stars. "I talked to Xia Tian. She just sent Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to Yanjing first, and then Mao Xianping, a senior professor of Huaxia Music Academy, gave them music lessons. In other words, they're just music apprentices now." Sister Li's expression became more worried and said, "Just apprentices? If you learn well, you can still be a star," Fang Yan said. He smiled bitterly in his heart. When Sister Li heard that her daughter was going to be a star, she was worried that her daughter would be cheated. However, when she heard that her daughter was just going to be a music apprentice, she felt sorry for her daughter. She hoped that her daughter would have a million good things, but she also hoped that her daughter would not encounter any danger or trouble. "Is she reliable, that Xia Tian?" "Her character should be reliable," Fang Yan said. "With her status in the entertainment circle, if she wanted to accept disciples, there would be at least 80,000 people willing to be her disciple. Since she chose Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, it proves that Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin really have something that she values." "Mr. Fang means we should let Jiang Qin learn music with Xia Tian?" Sisterly asked uncertainly. Fang Yan smiled and shook his head saying, I don't mean anything. It's all up to you and Jiang Qin. Sisterly patted Fang Yan's knee and said with a smile, Aren't you treating me like an outsider? Jiang Qin is your little niece. Now that she is facing an important decision in her life as her uncle, aren't you going to help her? Mr. Fang, I'll listen to you on this matter. If you say it's okay, we'll do it. If you say no, then Jiang Qin doesn't need to think about anything else. Just focus on her studies and prepare for the exam. I can't decide her life. Fang Yan said with a smile. It seemed that because of the contact between Jiang Qin and Xia Tian, Sisterly was still vigilant against him. She wouldn't suspect that Jiang Qin was going to be a music producer because of his encouragement, would she? In all honesty, he had never expressed his position on this matter. When Jiang Dehai came back from the shop, he was very happy to see Fang Yan. He took out a bottle of good wine from his private collection and wanted to have a good drink with Fang Yan. Fang Yan also had a good impression of this silent butcher who always had a smile on his face. He looked like a Maitreya Buddha. The two of them drank half a kilo each and the bottle of wine was soon finished. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Fang Yan got up and said goodbye. Jiang Qin ran downstairs and said, Mr. Fang, I'll see you off. No need. Fang Yan refused. It's not like I don't know the way. Let Jiang Qin see you off. Sisterly said. Fang Yan no longer refused and walked out the door with Jiang Qin. Winter had arrived and the weather was getting colder. Jiang Qin put on a casual coat and a plaid scarf around her neck. She walked in front with her hands in her pockets and Fang Yan walked behind her unhurriedly. The two of them walked along the small river in the village toward the bus stop at the intersection. My mother agreed for me to study music. Jiang Qin suddenly turned around and said to Fang Yan with a sweet smile. Congratulations. Fang Yan said. Jiang Qin shook her head and said, When my mother didn't agree, I was very anxious. Now that my mother has agreed, I'm a little scared. I don't know if this is the right thing to do. Can I really become a star? I think Yuan Lin is very mature and generous in this matter. Once she has decided on something, she will work hard to achieve it. Jiang Qin pouted unhappily and said, You mean Yuan Lin is better than me? It's not that she's better than you said it. Seeing Fang Yan's helpless expression, Jiang Qin burst out laughing and said, Do you think I'm being unreasonable? Not at all. Fang Yan said very firmly. That's good. Jiang Qin nodded with satisfaction. Mr. Fang, if I really want to study music, I'll have to go to Yanjing. Yanjing is so far from Huaqing. When I come back, will you still be the current teacher, Fang Yan? Of course, I'll still be the current teacher, Fang Yan, Fang Yan said with a smile. Could it be that I can become another teacher, Fang Yan? Single teacher, Fang Yan? A single teacher, Fang Yan, Fang Yan said with a nod. Jiang Qin was overjoyed at once and said, I'll remember what you said. When I come back from Yanjing, I want to see a single teacher, Fang Yan. You have to do what you said or else I won't be polite to you. Of course. Fang Yan nodded. Who dares to offend the butcher's daughter? Annoying. Jiang Qin said coquettishly. They arrived at the bus stop. Fang Yan signaled Jiang Qin to go back and rest. Jiang Qin stood still and said, I'll wait for you to get on the bus. Just then the number 19 bus arrived. Fang Yan waved his hand at Jiang Qin and said, I'm on the bus. You can go back. When the bus had gone far away, Jiang Qin stomped his feet in anger and scolded, Stinky driver, in the past no matter how long I waited for the bus, it never came. I still wanted to talk to Teacher Fang, but you rushed over in a hurry. Do you know how much of a romantic thing you ruined? The bus stopped at the Rosefinch High School stop. Fang Yan got off the bus and walked toward the school gate. With every step Fang Yan took, there would be a "duh" sound behind him. Fang Yan stopped and the voice behind him disappeared at the same time. As Fang Yan walked again, the "duh" sound rang in his ears again. Fang Yan suddenly turned around. A man with long hair, a big white robe and wooden clogs was looking at him with a smile on his face. The moonlight was cold and the man's thin face was frighteningly pale. Fang Yan stared at him with a burning gaze, and he also looked at Fang Yan with a gentle smile. Fang Yan understood that this was not an unintentional following or passing by chance. This man came for him. Who are you? Fang Yan asked. Chiba Shinbu, the man said aloud. He was dressed in a completely Japanese style, but he spoke authentic Wuxia language. Chiba Shinbu. Are you Chiba Haomu's father? Fang Yan asked aloud. He understood that he had hurt the young one, and now the old one had come to seek revenge. These guys were really haunting him. Chiba Shinbu. Chiba family's Chiba Shinbu. Chiba Shinbu said loudly. Fang Yan clenched his fists. No matter whose father you are, no matter whose Chiba Shinbu you are, I'll beat you up first. It's very infuriating for you to dress up like this in the middle of the night to scare people, okay? But soon Fang Yan's fists loosened. His expression was horrified, and from the inside out, there was a strong chill all over his body. This man, he just stood there so casually, making it difficult for you to make a move. Impeccable. Chapter 211. Hitting the head wasn't right, hitting the chest wasn't right, and hitting the groin wasn't right either. Fang Yan had 10,000 ways to attack, but it seemed that every attack could be intercepted and counterattacked by the opponent. Your killer moves were actually feeding the opponent moves. Chiba Hiroshi, known as the Light of the North Star, and the #1 swordsman in Japan, had actually reached the absolute wall realm in defense. The unknown was a cliff that was tens of thousands of feet in front of him, and if he wasn't careful he would fall. Such a sense of crisis made him cautious. The most terrifying thing in a battle was not being afraid of death, and the most taboo was not moving forward out of fear. When you lost confidence in your fists and hope for victory, then you would lose without a doubt. If you couldn't use your fists and feet, how could you talk about a great battle? Fang Yan was now facing this state of horror and fear. Because he was afraid. When experts fought, they often fought with their lives on the line. A superhuman 1 second ago could also become a dead man in the blink of an eye. Absolute wall experts were 1 in 10,000. This wasn't the first time he had encountered an impeccable realm expert, but that person had no reason to injure or kill him. Even Fang Yan himself couldn't think of any excuse for the person in front of him to show mercy. Whether it was to avenge his son's injury to his disciple, or to kill an expert like Wuxia, it could add color to his reputation. Fang Yan had unfulfilled dreams, and his Tai Chi heart was growing. Most importantly, he was still a virgin. He didn't want to die. Fang Yan took a deep breath, looked at Chiba Hiroshi and said, "Are you here to avenge Chiba Haomu?" No. Chiba Hiroshi denied with a smile. "You defeated Chiba Haomu, but that was because he wasn't good enough with the sword. If he needed revenge, he would pick up his sword and start over again. At that time it will be true revenge. Then what are you here for?" "You hurt Chiba Haomu. I'm still here for revenge," Fang Yan said. "You hurt Qing Yin again, Qing Yin." Fang Yan's eyes were slightly puzzled, but they instantly cleared up. He stared coldly at Chiba Shinbutsu and said, "So, the guy who tried to sneak around in the dark after turning off the lights and tried to fish in troubled waters and got beaten half to death by me is the Qing Yin you mentioned? Did you send him to test me? Or are you thinking of letting your disciple kill me so that you, the master, won't have to show up? Unfortunately, I've disappointed you, right? Qing Yin is a ninja. He will choose the most suitable combat environment for himself." Chiba Shinobu didn't get angry and explained in a gentle voice. Chiba Haomu returned with heavy injuries, but he wasn't angry. His eldest disciple, Qing Yin, was beaten to the point of vomiting blood, but he was not angry. Ever since he entered the soulless state, there were very few things that could make him angry. Fang Yan was thoroughly enraged. He stared at Chiba Shinobu and said, "Your son attacked me from behind after the battle, so I injured him. Qing Yin sneaked into a room full of students and attacked me, so I fought back. Now you came here to stop me and you still say you didn't want to avenge them? Why do you have to find a dignified excuse for doing such a dirty thing? Don't tell me you came here just to learn martial arts from me? If that's the case, I'll respect you." Chiba Haomu looked at the angry Fang Yan and said, "You can't fool me. Even when you're angry, your heartbeat is still balanced, your defense is still steady, and your eyes are too calm without a burning flame." Chiba Haomu stared at Fang Yan's eyes, but he knew all of Fang Yan's movements. "Why did you loosen your clenched fists? You can't do anything, so you want to provoke me?" Chiba Haomu asked with a smile. "Actually, the reason doesn't matter to me. I just think you should be a master. So I came here." "Now you're disappointed, aren't you?" Fang Yan said with a smile. "Look, standing in front of you, facing a master like you, I can't even throw a punch. Although I hate your enigmatic face as if everything is under your control. There were a few times when I wanted to rush over and throw a few punches. At that time I really wanted to see what kind of expression you would have. I'm not disappointed, Chiba Haomu said. You're very strong. You misunderstand, Fang Yan said. Very few people can maintain a calm heart in front of me. Chiba Haomu can't and Qingyin can only be considered half. You can laugh and scold with ease, which is already much stronger than Chiba Haomu and Qingyin. The night was as cold as water, and the dim yellow streetlight stretched the shadows of the two infinitely long. Chiba Haomu stood under a streetlight, and the light and shadow made his body and white robe inlaid with a pale yellow halo. It was a slightly prickly feeling and it made Fang Yan's eyes uncomfortable. It was a very hazy state. Fang Yan knew where Chiba Haomu was. He saw him there and he heard him there, but he knew that he was definitely not there. He seemed to be still, but he gave people the feeling that he was swimming like a ghost. This was the defense of the absolute wall, the defense of no gods. The reason why there were no gods was because they themselves were gods. They were false gods. Not being afraid is a kind of strength in itself, Chiba Haomu said. You're not as strong as I thought, but it's already very good. Before he finished speaking, Chiba Haomu's body strangely disappeared from where he stood. Then he appeared in front of Fang Yan like lightning, reaching out to grab his throat. Too fast. Unbelievably fast. A distance of more than 10 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. It was as if he had mastered the Daoist secret art of shrinking the ground into an inch, or as if he had drilled out of a strange wormhole. In just the blink of an eye, the distance of hundreds of millions of light-years had disappeared. Bang! Fang Yan felt a burning pain in his dantian. It was as if someone had raised a rifle and shot him hard in the abdomen. The heat was very oppressive and dull. It was like there was no boiling molten steel, no burning pyre. He always felt that there was something missing. Suppress and accumulate. Suppress and accumulate again. Boom! The molten steel boiled and the pyre burned. The heart of Taiji in Fang Yan's abdomen, which was extremely quiet, suddenly spun wildly. The realm of Taiji appeared. Wherever the realm was, it was my territory. He saw the outstretched palm. It was pale, thin, snow-white and tender. It didn't look like a hand that was holding a sword. There was no sound of wind and it didn't look fierce. It was light, as if it was about to touch a flower or pick a fruit, and it had to catch a handful of wind and put it in front of its nose to sniff carefully. The flower-pinching Buddha, the eyes of righteousness, the wonderful heart of nirvana, and the subtle method of reality. The body of the telephone pole became twisted and tilted, and the light of the street lamp became dark and gloomy. Everything around him had undergone a strange change. Whoosh! Fang Yan took a step back. It was just this step. Chiba's attack failed and Fang Yan's realm of Taiji disappeared. It was silent again. When Fang Yan sensed the extremely dangerous process of life and death, Chiba Shinobu's figure returned to its original position. It was exactly the same position as before, as if he had never left. What is this? Chiba looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled face. At his level, a sword was a sword, a knife was a sword, a fan was a sword, and so were chopsticks. A leaf or a flower was a sword, and so were his fingers. Just now, when he clawed at Fang Yan's throat, it was actually the claw sword that stabbed at Fang Yan's throat. A sword came, the heavenly flying fairy. Even some of the kendo experts he had defeated in the East Ocean were flustered when faced with this move of his claw sword, and they retreated several meters away. However, the guy in front of him, who was much younger than them, just dodged one step. Just by dodging one step, he had managed to avoid the 32 consecutive attacks of his chi. Heart of Taiji, Fang Yan said. Heart of Taiji. Chiba chewed on this word seriously. There was a huge difference between Wuxia and East Asia's martial arts. East Asia focused more on the extreme cultivation of fists and weapons, but Wuxia was the birthplace of Taiji. He didn't understand the various realms and miracles of Taiji, but he understood everything. With his cultivation in sword path and chi path, he could easily understand what Fang Yan meant by those words. Using inner force to fight external force and external force to build inner force. Then absorbing the power of nature. Is this the heart of Taiji? Fang Yan knew that these peerless masters weren't ordinary people, so he didn't hide it and said, "Indeed. It's rare and precious at such a young age. I don't understand the situation in Wuxia, but if it was in East Asia, You would be the first person of your generation. Fang Yan smiled and said, I just dodged one of your moves and you put me in this position. Are you praising me or yourself? Chiba didn't smile and looked at Fang Yan seriously. He said, coming 1,000 miles with a sword is a worthwhile trip. You are worthy of my sword. It's not worth it, Fang Yan advised. I can't beat you even with a hand sword. If you use a sharp sword, won't you cut me to death in 2 or 3 moves? Let's just have a casual spar. If you really break me, it won't be honorable even if you win, right? People will say that you are bullying the young and the strong. In a month, let's fight at the summit of One Sword Peak, Chiba said. A month? Are you challenging me? Fang Yan asked. He was a bit anxious and said, a month is too short, isn't it? I don't think I'm ready. How long will it take? Chiba asked. Fang Yan thought about it and said, 30 years. In 30 years I will wait for you at the summit of One Sword Peak to fight to the death. Chiba waved his sleeve and floated away. Fang Yan looked at his free and easy back and muttered to himself, say something, do you agree or not? Chapter 212. Did he agree? Fang Yingying asked expectantly. I don't know. Fang Yan was lying on a rattan chair in the yard, holding a cup of hot tea in his hand. Trying to drown his sorrows with tea made him even more worried. He felt that he was really innocent. He was just a little better at martial arts. How did he provoke an old monster like the Thousand Leaves Army? What competition? It was just because he beat up his son and disciple, so he wanted to reciprocate and beat him up to avenge his son and disciple. However, his son and disciple really needed to be taught a lesson, okay? What was even more infuriating was that he could beat people up, but why did he have to go to the top of the towering One Sword Peak to fight? Could it be that beating people up there was more of a sense of accomplishment? But I climbed up the mountain so hard just to be beaten up by you. What was the point? Wasn't that cheap? What do you mean by, don't know? Fang Yingying asked in a dilemma. Junior Martial Uncle was so annoyed. Couldn't he speak more clearly? He didn't say yes or no. He just shook his sleeves and turned around, Fang Yan said with a sigh. 30 years later will be my golden age. At that time I might be invincible in Wuxia, and the heart of Tai Chi will be overflowing. Doesn't he want a strong opponent? Doesn't he want to improve in adversity? I can meet all his requirements. Besides, he will probably be in his 70s or 80s at that time, and his swordsmanship will be great. Why did he take advantage of me for 30 years? Why do you think he didn't agree? That's too much, Fang Haohen said. Why did he beat people up for no reason? Should we go just because he asked us to? We just won't go. We just won't give him face. Why don't we call the police? Fang Yingying said indignantly. Just say that someone tried to physically attack us. It would be even better if he left a threatening letter for Junior Martial Uncle. Let's see how they can deny it. At that time we can directly send them back to Japan so that they can never step into Wuxia. Pa. Fang Yan slapped Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's heads and said angrily, you two are too disappointing. Do you still have the dignity of a martial artist? Do you still have the heart to strive for a higher level of martial arts? Who are we? He's the successor of the Fang clan's Taiji, an upright warrior of Wuxia. Now, a Japanese martial artist is challenging us. How can we run away? How can we be afraid of the police? This was a disgrace. It's not just our shame but the shame of the entire Wuxia martial world. Fang Yan would never do such a thing. Warriors are meant to fight. Non-stop fighting. Through the cruel, passionate, hot-blooded and life-or-death battles, he would search for the true meaning of supreme martial arts and the meaning of a warrior's life. What is the saddest thing in the world? A hero is short of breath and a beauty is past her prime. If you can't fight, you'd rather die. Fang Yingying interrupted Fang Yan and asked, Junior Martial Uncle, what do you mean? I'm going back to get reinforcements, Fang Yan said. This is outrageous. Does he think there's no one in the Fang clan? Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen looked at each other with an expression that said, I knew it would be like this. 4 Seasons Garden Hotel. The hotel where Summer was filming in Huaqing. The scenes of The Divine Furnace at Xianxia Mountain had all ended, and Summer was about to end her trip to Huaqing and return to Beijing. At the same time, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had also applied to take a break from school. They would be going to Beijing to study together with Summer. In the Chinese restaurant of the hotel. Lily private room. Fang Yan was the host, giving a farewell dinner for summer. At the same time, it was also to bid farewell to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, the two girls who had a close relationship with Fang Yan. They would leave Huaqing, the city that gave birth to her, and go to Beijing, to a distant place, to study and fight for their ideals and future. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were not in a good mood. They only ate a few mouthfuls of rice before putting down their chopsticks. The rest of the time they silently watched Fang Yan and summer chat. Xianxia glanced at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said with a smile, "It seems like the two of you are very reluctant to leave Mr. Fang. My charm is not as great as Mr. Fang's, but none of you are willing to come with me." It was originally just a joke to liven up the atmosphere, but it unexpectedly made Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's expressions a little unnatural. Although they had only known Fang Yan for a short period of time, they were very dependent on him. Speaking of love, it was too far away. They were too young and probably didn't even know what love was. However, they did like to be with Fang Yan. This was because Fang Yan was different from the boys they knew. "Sister, we just can't bear to part with Mom and Dad." "It's not that we can't bear to part with Mr. Fang," Jiang Qin retorted with a red face. Originally, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin wanted to call her teacher Xia, but Xia felt that it wasn't good for her to call her big sister, which made her look younger. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin also felt that it was better to address her this way. Their relationship was closer, unlike the title of teacher, which always separated them by a layer of dignity. "That's right. Originally my mom wanted to send me off, but she kept wiping her tears. I felt uncomfortable watching her, so I didn't let her send me off." Yuan Lin echoed. All right, I was just joking. Why did the two of you take it seriously?" Xiaji said with a smile. "Don't be so sad. Although the distance between Yanjing and Flower City is very far, it's only 2 hours by plane. If you want, you can fly back every day to see your parents. Of course, you can't affect your studies." Xiaxia looked at Fang Yan and said, "I've already greeted teacher Mao Xianping. He's a highly respected musician in the industry and also my first music teacher. I told him on the phone that I had sent him 2 good seedlings and he was very happy. He's retired from school now, so he can spend more time teaching students. As for how much they can learn, that will depend on Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's own luck. Sister, don't worry. Since we have chosen this path, we will definitely work hard," Yuan Lin said with incomparable determination. "Yes, we have already thought it through. We want to be the #1 ancient instrument player in Wuxia." Jiang Qin's goal for the future was even more dazzling and brilliant. Fang Yan raised his wine glass and said, "I wish you success. Cheers." Cheers. The wine glasses in everyone's hands collided with each other. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the summer car was also waiting at the entrance of the hotel lobby. Fang Yan sent Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin downstairs. At the same time, Zhang Wei and a female assistant surnamed Chen accompanied them back to Beijing. He didn't see the actor Feng Yuanqing, who had been sticking close to Xia Chen. It seemed that after the incident at Sky One, his relationship with Xia Chen had been affected. Xiaxia shook hands with Fang Yan and said with a smile, "The biggest gain from coming to Flower City this time is to get to know a friend like you. Thank you for your help, and I'm sorry for all the trouble I've brought you." "Shouldn't that be left for me to say? Who doesn't want to be friends with a big star?" Fang Yan said with a smile. "Come, let's take a group photo. I'll post it on Weibo to show off." Xia Chen leaned his head on Fang Yan's shoulder and said, "If you dare to post it, I don't mind." Fang Yan didn't take out his phone to take a photo in the end and said, "Forget it. I'll take a photo with you after I apply for Weibo." "I knew you wouldn't dare." Xia Chen giggled. She took out a file bag from her bag and said, "I've asked someone to investigate that ninja. Take a good look. Qingyin, he's a very dangerous person. What's more dangerous is his master. 1,000 Leaves of the Army, the Light of the North, the #1 swordsman in Japan. It's said that countless masters have been defeated by his sword. Qingyin and 1,000 Leaves of the Army are now in Wuxia. I don't know why they're here. Try not to clash with them head-on. If you need anything, you can call me at any time." "What you remind me is exactly what I want to remind myself. Don't worry. I'll slip away when I see the situation isn't right," Fang Yan said. "At most, I'll go back to Yanjing and join you." "You're very welcome," Xia Chen said. Xia Chen waved his hand at Fang Yan and took the lead to get into the RV. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin walked over. The two girls looked at Fang Yan with resentment. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "If you really don't want to go, I'll talk to Xia Chen. Let's not go." Annoying. Yuan Lin burst out laughing and said, "I've already taken a break from school. How can I not go?" Exactly. Why didn't you say you wouldn't let us go to Yanjing? Jiang Qin complained. But I didn't say I had to let you go. You're putting all the blame on me now. It's really unfair. Fang Yan said helplessly. It's your fault. If you don't stop us, it means you want us to go. Jiang Qin said. Yes. You must have been impatient with us for a long time. That's why you deliberately brought Sister Xia to Kagvi to see us, and then let her take us away. Yuan Lin glanced at Fang Yan and said, "Mr. Fang, you must visit us in Yanjing when you have time." All right. Fang Yan nodded and said. Yuan Lin glanced at Jiang Qin and said, "I know you must think I'm an eyesore. Then I'll get in the car first." Jiang Qin was extremely angry, but there was nothing he could do to his best friend. "Little girl, study hard." Fang Yan looked at Jiang Qin and said, "Just like you said, become the #1 ancient instrument player in Wuxia." "I will work hard." Jiang Qin nodded and said. Her eyes bravely looked at Fang Yan and said, "Mr. Fang, I lied just now." "What?" "Sister Xia asked us if we couldn't bear to leave you and I said no. In fact, I really couldn't bear to leave you." Jiang Qin took off the plaid scarf around his neck and quickly wrapped it around Fang Yan's neck and said, "This is for you." The girl turned around and ran away like a frightened rabbit. She got into the RV without looking back. The RV slowly opened and soon disappeared from Fang Yan's sight. Fang Yan looked down at the wool scarf around his neck, with an ambiguous body temperature, and a fragrance like an orchid came to his nose. That was youth. Chapter 213. The auditorium was filled with a dense crowd. More than 200 students and dozens of teaching staff were gathered together, waiting for the class to officially start. Today was the day that Fang Yan would give the first-year students a big class. According to the school schedule, there were 6 classes. Class 1, Class 3, Class 5, Class 7, Class 9 and Class 11. The reason why the order was messed up was to make the grades of the students more uniform. After all, when Rosefinch recruited students, it was based on their grades in the senior high school entrance exam. The best students were naturally in Class 1, the slightly worse ones in Class 2 and the even worse ones in Class 3, so on and so forth. It wouldn't be appropriate to give lessons to the students with the best grades or the students with the worst grades at the same time. Although Fang Yan would treat every student equally, the students in the later classes would definitely think that the school or teacher Fang Yan was biased and unfair to them. In class, Fang Yan had been teaching the students that there were many unfair things in this world, but he would try his best to pursue the word fairness in dealing with people. The students were here for class while the teachers were here to learn or to find fault. High school was different from university. In university, it was normal for professors to give big classes to students. However, high school focused more on teaching in small classes, and the students' enthusiasm for learning and discipline during class were stricter and more demanding. If the students didn't study well during the big classes and didn't follow the class rules, how could they get into the best university? If they couldn't get into the best university, how could they have the best future? However, the school had made such a decision to let Fang Yan give a big class to all the first-year students. This was undoubtedly a hard slap to the faces of the other language teachers. Fang Yan was a treasure and they were trash? Could it be that they had been misleading the students in the past? How could they be convinced by this? Hence, these teachers rushed over together. They wanted to see what kind of new knowledge and inspiration Fang Yan, Rosefinch's king of teachers, could bring to the students. If Fang Yan wanted to get by perfunctorily, then they would have to take this opportunity to launch a fierce counterattack against Fang Yan and the school's higher-ups. The class was scheduled for 2 hours from 7 to 9 in the evening. There was a 15-minute break in between. It was already 6:50 p.m., but the teacher Fang Yan was nowhere to be seen. It's almost time. Why isn't teacher Fang Yan here yet? I've long heard of teacher Fang Yan's name. Now I have the chance to become his student. Let's see what kind of surprise he has for us today. Huang Haoren, has Mr. Fang ever been late to class before? Do you want to make a call and ask? The students of Class 9 discovered that they had suddenly become the focus of everyone's attention and eye-catching stars. If anyone had any questions, they would ask the students of Class 9. The auditorium was noisy and the students were talking about it. It was as chaotic as a wet market. The last row of the auditorium was unusually quiet. More than a dozen Chinese teachers sat side by side, looking at the students in front of them and maintaining minimal communication. The language teacher of Class 3, Li Xinhua, was sitting next to Zhang Yu. Looking at Zhang Yu sitting there with a gloomy face, he didn't know what she was thinking. She looked like she shared a common enemy with him. He said angrily, "Look, is this still a lesson? The classroom is as noisy as a wet market. The students can't calm down. How are we going to start the class later?" Zhang Yu glanced at Li Xinhua and said, "Maybe Mr. Fong has some tricks up his sleeve?" Ever since Class 1 lost to Class 9 in the last language competition, Zhang Yu felt that he couldn't lift his head in school. He was also forced by the bet to go to the school's radio station to read the apology letter, which he regarded as the shame of his life. This made him hate Fong Yan to the bone. That bullsh *T flying ash fertilizer jingle, was it something an ordinary person could read? That was too much. It was also because he lost so badly last time that Zhang Yu didn't dare to be too full of himself. Otherwise he might be the one to lose face. I want to see what new things he can teach the students today," Li Xinshu said with a face full of sarcasm. "If the students are not satisfied, we have to report it to the school. Even if Mr. Fong has a close relationship with a certain school board member, he can be the vice principal or directly the principal. As a teacher, wouldn't that be misleading the students?" Zhang Yu had also heard of the scandal between Fong Yan and the school board member Lu Chaoga. The truth of the matter could be ignored, but in his opinion Fong Yan did have some ability. Otherwise, how could the Class 1 he led lose to Class 9? It should be known that this time Class 1 lost not because Class 1 didn't do well, but because Class 9 did too well. Class 1 performed well as a whole this time. Except for Qin Etian and Tang Qing, the other students still performed at their best level in Rosefinch. Zhang Yu didn't like Fong Yan's character, but he didn't think that Fong Yan was an idiot without real ability who relied on women to get ahead. "Let's wait a little longer," Zhang Yu said. "Time's up." Pop. The light above the auditorium's rostrum lit up. A lonely spotlight. Fong Yan walked out from the backstage on time. The spotlight followed him all the way, like a bright sun following his head. He was wearing a black rosefinch Chinese tunic suit. The jacket was unbuttoned, revealing the snow-white shirt inside. His hair was combed casually, and there was a gentle and charming smile on his face. At this time, Fong Yan had the elegance of a knowledgeable person. He was elegant and handsome. His appearance alone caused the students to scream and applaud enthusiastically. "Mr. Fong, you're so handsome." "Lu Dehua, Mr. Fong, you look like Lu Dehua." "Like Tang Zhong? He can even pretend to be a woman." "Tang Zhong is the handsome one." Li Xinhua curled his lips and sneered, "Are you here to teach or to sing? You don't look like a teacher. You look more like a third-rate singer trying to please the crowd." Zhang Yu frowned slightly and didn't answer. Fong Yan held the microphone in the corner of his clothes and glanced at the students below the stage with a smile. The students looked up at Fong Yan with the same inexplicable smile on their faces. Even though Fong Yan hadn't started his lecture, both the teacher and the students already felt that this would be a pleasant night. They didn't feel any pressure when facing their teacher Fong Yan, nor did they feel a sense of urgency to learn. They were like close friends who just gathered together to chat. "What is Kung Fu?" Fong Yan asked. The microphone spread his voice to every corner of the auditorium. The audience suddenly became silent. Could it be that the class had officially started? What did this question mean? They weren't here to learn Chinese. What did this have to do with Kung Fu? Only now did the students remember that Fong Yan came empty-handed. He didn't bring the first-year Chinese textbook. As for the lesson plan, the students of Class 9 said that they had never seen such a thing. It had to be said that teacher Fong Yan wasn't a diligent teacher. "Does anyone know?" Fong Yan looked around and asked again, "What is Kung Fu?" "Southern Fist and Northern Leg Shaolin Wudong Gong. Kung Fu is our Wuxia martial arts. Kung Fu can be used to attack and defend. Stephen Chow's movie is Kung Fu." Seeing that Fong Yan was really asking this question, the students' interest was immediately piqued and all kinds of strange answers were thrown out. At first, a dozen people answered, then dozens of people answered. In the end, all the students were rushing to answer and argue, and the big classroom became a pot of porridge again. Fang Yan gestured for everyone to quiet down and said, "Everyone's answer is correct. Kung Fu is southern fist and northern leg Shaolin Wudong Gong. Can be used to attack and defend, and it's also Stephen Chow's movie. Tonight I will show you the profound world of our Wuxia martial arts. I want to let you know what real Kung Fu is." Fang Yan waved his hand, and a dozen men in black shorts rushed up with soft knives in their hands. The leader was Zhang Qin, the Wang Pai coach of the glorious martial arts school next door. Zhang Qin stood alone in front of the knife, and the other students scattered and arranged in a beautiful fan shape. Exciting music sounded, and a man's beautiful and calm voice rang through the whole audience. The people who have been asleep for 100 years are gradually waking up. "Ah!" the students screamed out. "For this gorgeous scene, for this familiar song." "Ha!" Zhang Qin slashed out with his knife, and it was earth-shattering. "Ha!" More than a dozen students behind him slashed out with their knives at the same time, and their strength broke the sky. "Open your eyes and look carefully. Who is willing to admit?" Zhang Qin had a knife on his head, and his body did a 180-degree somersault. Ah! More than a dozen students had knives on their heads, and their bodies did a 180-degree somersault. "Open your mouth and shout loudly. This is a country full of soldiers, and bandits have always been invading, and they will die." The music became more and more exciting, and the knife array performed by the martial arts students led by Zhang Qin became more and more wonderful and exciting. The music was the background of the knife array, and it made the knife array more imposing. The knife array was the body of the music, and it gave the music an unruly soul. The music was desolate and tragic, but it contained endless power. The knife light and the sword shadow, and the men's roar filled the world with hope, and everyone present was full of confidence to win. The Great Wall never falls, and the Yellow River surges for thousands of miles. Chapter 2:14. The mountains are beautiful and the mountains are colorful. The saber array kept changing its formation. Saber light flashed and shadows flashed. "Ask me which part of the country looks like a disease." Zhang Qin flipped 16 times on the stage with a saber in his hand. While doing so, he kept changing the moves of his saber, creating beautiful saber flowers. The other students followed closely behind him and did 16 flips. "Let's open up a path of blood. We must devote ourselves to the prosperity of our country. How can we let our country be trampled again? The sleeping lion is waking up. Ha ha ha." Zhang Qin and the students merged into one like the thousand flowers guanyin, forming a long line of slaughter that was impossible to guard against. The long line danced on the stage with a powerful momentum, sweeping away everything in its path. The music ended and the saber array stopped. Zhang Qin waved his hand and the students behind him moved forward in small steps, forming a neat human wall with him at the center. "Salute!" Zhang Qin shouted. All of them raised their sabers with one hand and pointed the tip at the roof of the auditorium. Clatter! The audience burst into thunderous applause. Zhang Qin led his disciples away from the stage. The students below the stage were still extremely excited. "So cool. Those saber wielders were so cool. Amazing. This is martial arts, the real Wuxia Kung Fu. Those guys always beat us up. What is Kung Fu?" Fang Yan asked. This time he did not wait for an answer. He gave his own answer. "It's not just fighting and defending, it's not just fighting in sports. It's the culture of Wuxia, the national confidence, the unyielding soul and the invincible capital." In the text Banquet at Hongmen, Xianxia performed a sword dance with the intention of killing Duke Pei. This sentence clearly tells us that Xianxia must be an expert swordsman. Otherwise, why would Fan Xing summon him to perform a sword dance to kill Liu Bang? When Fan Kuai learned that Xiang Yu wanted to kill Liu Bang, he said, "This is the last resort. Please come in and share the same fate." With sword and shield in hand, Kuai entered the army gate. Fan Kuai slammed his shield into the guard, causing the guard to fall to the ground, allowing Kuai to enter the camp. If Fan Kuai's martial arts were weak, would he have dared to barge into the camp with a shield? If he wasn't strong enough, I'm afraid he wouldn't even be able to deal with the soldiers at the entrance of the barracks. let alone the guards and Kuai Sui. Isn't that right? The students below the stage roared with laughter. They had just listened to the blood-boiling music and seen the blood-boiling saber array. While they were madly in love with Wuxia's martial arts, Fang Yan just happened to closely connect Wuxia's martial arts with the texts they had studied, which made them feel very immersed and had a strong desire to learn and understand. At this time it was no longer Fang Yan forcing them to learn something, but they were eager to learn something. Fang Yan didn't bring his textbooks but the students did. When Fang Yan was talking about the banquet at Hongmen, the sound of pages being turned rang out from the audience. They wanted to find the original text and read it again so that they could understand the essence of the text and think about the stories of the characters in the text. When they were studying, everyone's focus was on the two main characters, Lu Bang and Xiang Yu. Now when Fang Yan specifically mentioned Xiang Zhuang and Fan Kuai, it immediately aroused everyone's interest in their lives. Why did Prince Dan send Jing Ku to assassinate King Qin? It must be because Jing Ku's martial arts and wisdom are outstanding. When they were studying the text, there was a character that they didn't pay much attention to. That was Jing Ku's deputy Qin Wuyang. What did Jing Ku want to do? He wanted to assassinate the most powerful overlord at that time. It's widely acknowledged that Jing Ku was outstanding in ability and martial arts. Why was Qin Wuyang chosen to carry out the mission together with Jing Ku? Qin Wuyang is not a simple character. When he was 12 years old he had killed someone and no passerby dared to look him in the eye. It's not hard to imagine that he is a very cruel man. Although he is good at killing, he doesn't have extraordinary wisdom. It's written very clearly in the book. When Qin Wuyang arrived at the bottom of the steps of King Qin's grand hall with the map in his hand, his expression changed dramatically and he was very scared. The officials of the Qin state felt very strange about this. In the end, Jing Ku's assassination failed and he had to bear the main responsibility. Therefore there's a saying in martial arts: train the muscles, bones and skin externally and train the spirit internally. If one only has a strong skin and flesh and doesn't have the spirit in his heart, he won't be able to achieve great things. Qin Wuyang is a very typical example. Fang Yan clapped his hands and Fang Yingying, dressed in a white tang suit, ran out with a sword in his hand. Clear music began to play. This time it was Gu Zheng's version of Guangling San. Fang Yingying began to dance with the sword in his hand. His movements were so light and graceful that people forgot that he was a fatso. Everyone must be familiar with this kind of kung fu. That's right, this is the Tai Chi that we often talk about. Wuxia Kung Fu has a profound connotation, and the core of its ideology is Confucianism's neutralization of Qi. Just now we were talking about why Qin Wuyang failed. It's because he didn't know how to cultivate Qi. He didn't have that energy in his body and it was too difficult for him to reach the next level. He didn't perform well on the spot and he was nervous and scared. That's why Qin's state found out about his abnormality. Martial artists need to cultivate Qi, but don't scholars need to cultivate Qi? We also need to cultivate Qi, and what we need to cultivate is awe-inspiring righteousness. There is righteousness in the world and everything has its shape. Below it are the rivers and mountains and above it are the sun and stars. Humans have awe-inspiring righteousness. They don't fear the small and even ghosts and gods can't get close to them. Teacher, how do we cultivate awe-inspiring righteousness? A student asked loudly. Is it to get closer to Huang Haoren? Fang Yan laughed and said, getting closer to Huang Haoren is also cultivating awe-inspiring righteousness. Don't we often say? What kind of person is with what kind of person? In my eyes, Huang Haoren is a student with righteousness. Wow. The eyes of the students in the 9th class were all focused on Huang Haoren's face. To be praised by teacher Fang Yan in front of more than 200 students and dozens of teachers, this guy was too lucky, right? The students in other classes who knew Huang Haoren all cast envious eyes at him. Some who didn't know Huang Haoren were also asking around who Huang Haoren was. Huang Haoren's face suddenly turned red like a cooked crab. His eyes were red and his body kept trembling. Huang Haoren. The students in the 9th class shouted Huang Haoren's name loudly. Huang Haoren, Huang Haoren, Huang Haoren. All the students in the audience were shouting this name that might or might not be familiar. Because of Fang Yan's words, Huang Haoren became the star hero of the audience. Huang Haoren stood up and bowed deeply to the position where Fang Yan stood. Clatter. The students applauded enthusiastically. They didn't know why, but they felt this scene was very touching. Fang Yan waved his hand, signaled everyone to be quiet, and said, "Just now, a student asked me how to cultivate awe-inspiring righteousness, and I think this question is very good. Reading to nourish the mind, writing to cultivate qi. Doing good and accumulating virtue can lead to awe-inspiring righteousness. For us, this is not a difficult thing. It is also something that is easily ignored by us." After Fang Yingying finished his Tai Chi sword dance, he bowed to the audience with a serious face. The students burst into laughter at the sight of his comical appearance. However, they still didn't forget to give this fatso a warm applause. The third to go on stage was Fang Haohen. He held a high stack of glasses and walked to the stage. Wuxia's kung fu is rooted in Confucianism, and it also blends with Taoism's keeping quiet and softness. For example, the Tai Chi sword performance we saw just now. There is also the meditation of Buddhism, which is also the culture of Buddhism. Thus, it forms a broad and profound martial arts system. Fang Haohen stood behind Fang Yan. After bowing to the audience, he grabbed a glass and threw it on the ground. Crack. After a crisp sound, the glass was smashed into pieces. The students in the audience were puzzled. Is this guy sick? Why did he run to the rostrum and smash the glass? Is this also Wuxia's kung fu? Even Fang Yan couldn't help but look back at Fang Haohen. This silly guy, I asked you to come up to perform eating glass, not to smash glass. Fang Haohen squatted down, picked up a piece of glass from the ground and put it in his mouth, chewing it. Oh my god, he actually ate the glass into his stomach. Are you serious? It's not a fake glass, right? Can you let me touch it? It's so disgusting. Punching and kicking, tripping and grappling, wielding knives and swords, jumping on roofs and running on walls. Even the dangerous people who are eating glass behind me are all part of Wuxia's kung fu. People often ask, does Wuxia's kung fu really exist? The answer is beyond doubt. Fang Yan waved his hand. Fang Haohen, who was chewing glass, threw a glass to Fang Yan reluctantly. Fang Yan took the glass, put his hands together and wrapped it in his palms. He rubbed his hands quickly and white smoke came out from the gaps between his fingers. When he opened his palms again, the students only saw a puddle of white powder. He gently blew on the powder and the white powder danced in the air. It fluttered like fine snowflakes. Wow! The students were all dumbfounded. How could this work? Teacher Fang Yan couldn't be playing magic, right? Students, today's class ends here, Fang Yan said with a smile. Goodbye. Fang Yan turned around and was ready to leave. Acting cool to this extent was already quite satisfactory. There was no need for another word, no need for a wave of the hand, and no need for an extra look. At this moment, the smile on Fang Yan's face suddenly froze. His pupils widened and he had a look of disbelief. At the entrance of the auditorium, a woman stood leaning against the door. Black leather jacket, black leather pants. Clean and neat short black hair and a black scarf tied around her neck. She had a mocking smile on her face, but her eyes were as bright and beautiful as the stars in the sky. She walked through the long corridor, past countless tables, chairs and students, and walked step by step towards Fang Yan. She grabbed the textbook of a student in the front row, and with a light tap of her sexy high heels on the cement floor, she leaped onto the stage and stood in front of Fang Yan. Pop! She swung the textbook and hit Fang Yan's head. Again. Pop! She swung the textbook and hit Fang Yan's head for the second time. Again. Pop! She swung the textbook and hit Fang Yan's head for the third time. Again. Chapter 215. Fang Yingying grabbed Fang Haohen, who wanted to go back to the stage, and said, "Stop them? If they really want to fight, can you stop them? They can send you flying with just one move." Bang. But I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I die with you? Fang Haohen asked with a confused face, holding a few unfinished glasses. Junior Marshal Uncle asked you to call back for help. Who did you call? Fang Haohen was simple and honest, but he was not an idiot. After listening to Fang Yingying's words, he immediately became suspicious of his behavior. That's true. Qin Etienne said softly. Know yourself and know your enemy so that you can win 100 battles. At least I need to know what kind of woman my opponent is. She was really handsome when she hit Mr. Fang. Was this a stage play? But what was wrong with that woman? What was wrong with the woman who whipped Fang Yan's head again and again with a textbook? Fong Haohan looked at Fong Yingying in surprise and said, "You knew that Miss Yi would come? How could it be like this? How could there be someone who could beat Fong Yan so easily and casually? And it was a woman?" Tangqing hurriedly stopped Qin Yitian and said, "Qin Yitian, wait, wait." His cheeks twitched and his eyes were moist. Tears were swirling in his eyes. He tried to raise his face and not let the aggrieved tears slide down his cheeks. He really cried. Was this a movie? Yuan-ro, this woman really went too far. Such a smile was amazing, but it also gave people a kind of indescribable fear. Fong Yan cried. That woman's behavior was too bold. That woman's posture was too handsome. That woman's smile was too charming. That woman's bitch sounded really bitchy. Impossible, Fong Haohan said. Master doesn't use a cell phone at all. He spends most of his time in a drunken stupor. How would he answer your call? Fong Yingying was angry and said, "Even you know this fact, how can I not know? When I called Master, it was Miss Yi who picked up. What did Miss Yi ask? How could I not answer? How dare I not answer? If I asked you, would you dare to hang up?" Through the incident of Chiba Haomu getting injured and the conversation between her father and Clear Shadow, she knew exactly how powerful Fong Yan was. Qin Yitian arrived late, and the front row was occupied by students from other classes, so she randomly found a seat in the back row and sat down. When Tangqing saw Qin Yitian coming, he took the initiative to run from the front to the back to sit with her. "Don't worry," said Fong Haohan. "Of course I'm on your side. After all, you're my brother." He glared at Yi-Ro with a face full of anger, glaring at the culprit who kicked him, who was on his way to becoming a god into hell. Without a doubt, if someone dared to stand up and shout for them to stop at this moment, they would definitely be beaten to death. Flap. Wuxia. Sure enough, I didn't come here for nothing. Chiba Sun sighed in her heart. "Don't worry. There won't be a fight." Fong Yingying said with a relaxed expression, "Junior Martial Uncle wants to fight, but if he did that, wouldn't he be asking to be humiliated? Junior Martial Uncle is a smart person, he wouldn't do something that's not good for himself." In the past, she would beat him up every year. Although Fong Yan was very angry and tried to take revenge, he endured it. Fong Yingying hurriedly denied and said, "I don't know, how would I know that Miss Yi would come? I don't know anything. Fong Haohan, I'm warning you, don't talk nonsense in front of Junior Martial Uncle. Otherwise, don't blame me for not calling you when there's something good in the future. If people knew that the clouds in the sky were too far away, who would chase after them endlessly?" "Of course it's for Master," Fong Yingying replied stubbornly. Qin Yitian thought for a moment and pursed his lips into a smile. Seeing Fong Yan's actions and expression, Fong Haohan panicked and said, "This is bad. Junior Martial Uncle is probably going to fight with Miss Yi. Junior Martial Uncle cares about his reputation the most. If Miss Yi hits him in front of so many people, he will definitely feel very embarrassed. What should we do? We have to rush over to stop them." "Oh, it wasn't like this, the script wasn't written like this." Fong Yan's dantian was ignited, his fists were clenched tightly. All the vertebrae in his body were pulling, making a strange cracking sound. "Besides, I only asked her to pass on our situation to Master. How would I know that she would come by herself? Fong Haohan, this time you must stand on my side. If Junior Martial Uncle asks, I will say that I also don't know how Miss Yi came. You have to be a witness for me, understand?" No one picked it up, no one noticed it at all. Yi-Ro crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking at Fong Yan with disdain, whose anger was constantly rising. "Now I'm far away from Yanjing, secretly running to the southernmost watching of the country. Why does Yi-Ro come over to bully and beat me?" Chapter 216. Mom. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan felt like being struck by lightning. They were shocked by the way Fong Yan addressed Yi-Ro. How could the powerful, violent and beautiful Miss Yi-Ro become Junior Martial Uncle's mother? Yi Wenru beat her martial uncle like Ultraman beating little monsters. It had become a norm in her life. How could these two people be mother and son? Which mother would be willing to beat her son like this? Fong Yingying thought sadly. He felt sorry for Junior Martial Uncle. Fong Yingxiong and Fong Haohan knew what was going on, so they were only shocked by Fong Yan's shamelessness and guilt. They knew that they were shameless, but they did not know about Ho Yong's lazy lifestyle. But the audience who didn't know the truth suddenly burst into an uproar. "Did you hear that? Mr. Fong called that woman mother. Oh my god, Mr. Fong's mother is so young and beautiful, I don't know how she takes care of herself. No way. My companions and I were all stunned. The whip queen in my heart is Mr. Fong's mother? Then I have no hope at all? I don't think so. They don't look alike at all. How could a mother beat her son like this? Is she Mr. Fong's girlfriend? They look like a good match. Tangqing felt a little regret in his heart. He turned to Xianxia and said, now their relationship is clear. The one who beat him is Mr. Fong's mother. Fortunately, you didn't go on the stage just now, or I don't know how to end it. Now you can rest assured, right? It was not easy to find an opponent who could compete with Xianxia, and it was a woman whose aura was not inferior to that of Xianxia. If she could win over Mr. Fong Yan, then the success rate of pursuing Xianxia would increase by several percentage points. Such an outstanding woman. How did she become Mr. Fong's mother? Xianxia looked at Yi Ro thoughtfully. This woman is very interesting. As for Tangqing's question, she didn't even bother to answer it. Only an idiot would believe that this woman was Fong Yan's mother. Can you understand Fong Yan's difficulties? He couldn't let the news of him being beaten up by a woman spread throughout the entire school. No, it was very likely that it would spread throughout Huaqing. He couldn't allow his image as a male idol to collapse. He couldn't allow himself to become a joke among the teachers and students. He was the Fong Yan with ideals, dignity and face, not the Fong Yan who had been hit 3 times on the head by a woman holding a book. As a teacher, Fong Yan was too embarrassed to punish his students in this way. Yi Ro, that woman. Of course, she had done worse things, so it was not difficult for Fong Yan to accept. If it weren't for the humiliation, if it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to be beaten up by Yi Ro every year in front of the elders and juniors of the Fong and Yi families, and if it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to become a joke of the other families again, they would greet each other by asking, is Fong Yan awake today? If it weren't for these reasons, why would he run away to be a teacher? But weren't there too many people today? Wasn't the scene a little too grand? Forced to do so, Fong Yan had to use this ultimate move. Men were bitter and tired. Men worked hard to earn money to support their families, but they were often punished to kneel. If it was the wife who hit the man, others would think that the man was really a grandson. If it was the mother who hit the man, others would think that the man was really a filial son. The reason why Fong Yan called Yi Ro mom was actually to make others misunderstand that it was a family conflict. Besides, wasn't it a natural thing for a mother to hit her son? When they secretly talked about how pitiful Mr. Fong was, they would also add, Mr. Fong is really a gentle and filial man, right? Mom. The smile on Yi Ro's face instantly became extremely stiff. Because of the anger and shyness, her ears were smeared with a layer of red. Obviously, she didn't expect that Fong Yan would fight back in this way. Fong Yan, it seems that you haven't changed a bit after not seeing you for a long time. Yi Ro stared at Fong Yan fiercely and said in a cold voice. You haven't changed a bit either. You used to hit me and you still hit me now, Fong Yan said. After saying that, he remembered that there was a loudspeaker on his collar, so he quickly turned around and waved to the students under the stage saying, Class dismissed, students dismissed. Go back. Go back and have a good rest. No one left. Not a single person left. Everyone sat quietly and looked at Fong Yan expectantly, waiting for the development of the story. Yes, Fong Yan didn't see it wrong. They were indeed expectantly. Their eyes were shining as if aliens were about to appear. Fong Yan felt very hurt. Usually these guys kept saying that they liked Mr. Fong the most. Now, when Mr. Fong was in trouble, they didn't ask for their help but just wanted them to leave quietly. They couldn't even do such a small request. Some bastards even raised their mobile phones to take pictures of him. Bastards, what do you mean by taking pictures? How can you take pictures of such an embarrassing scene? If you don't go, I'll go, Fong Yan said angrily. He turned around and was about to leave. The sooner he left, the better. Staying here would only make him more embarrassed. Click. The slender high heels on Yi Ro's feet moved a step and once again blocked Fong Yan's way with her tall and exquisite body. Fong Yan raised his eyebrows and said, Mom, I know you have some misunderstandings about me. Can we talk about these things at home? There are all my students in the audience. Won't we be a joke if we stand here and make a noise? You used to call me stinky bitch, but now you call me mom. Yi Ro sneered. You've been a teacher for a few months. Have you become more civilized? Stinky bitch? What stinky bitch? Fang Yan said in a low voice. He turned off the loudspeaker so that those guys in the audience wouldn't hear their conversation. When did I call you stinky bitch? I don't remember this kind of thing at all. A good man doesn't fight with a woman and a good dog doesn't stand in the way. That's what you said, right? Did I say that? Fang Yan thought about it seriously and said, maybe you did? We have a dog at home and it always stands in my way. That dog is called Wenro, Yiro answered. I've seen it. I've even fed it meat buns. Fang Yan was furious and said, who gave it this name? How could such a mighty and domineering dog have such a feminine name? I clearly named it Dongmen Chueshue. Miss Yi, I think there are a lot of misunderstandings between us. Go back with me and I'll explain it to you. If you're not satisfied with my explanation you can hit me again, okay? Now you want to explain? Yiro looked at Fang Yan with a sneer and said, you ran away from home and abandoned the annual competition agreement between the Yi and Fang families, leaving me to deal with it alone. Why didn't you think of explaining at that time? Write a letter and ask someone to send it to me. Stinky bitch, an old man doesn't fight with a woman and a good dog doesn't stand in the way. I left and never saw you again. This was written by you. I didn't miss a word, did I? Why didn't you think of explaining at that time? You scolded me as the ugliest woman in Yanjing, the leader of the Wuxia clan, the first honorary president of the International Union of Ugly Women, and I didn't need makeup to act in a horror film. You said you never worried about the World War but worried that I couldn't get married. You raced a Pekingese and named it Yiro. When you were free, you threw your dirty shoes and stinky socks out and let it pick them up. You called me mom in front of so many people. Do you think I'm a fool? If I'm not stupid, why would I give you a chance to explain? Fang Yan looked at Yiro shyly and said with embarrassment, you know all these? Is there anything else you want to add? Actually, your summary is very complete, Fang Yan said. Can you tell me who betrayed me? And then, I'll beat him after I'm beaten. Fang Yan's tone suddenly became murderous. Is it Fang Yingxiong and Fang Haohen? I knew they didn't have good intentions when they came to Flower City to find me. Maybe they're the spies you sent. Yiro smiled and looked at Fang Yan. Fang Yan, after so many years, you must not know a secret. What secret? I like you when you're shameless. Fang Yan's heart thumped wildly as he asked in pleasant surprise, is what you said true? Of course, Yiro said. In that case, I won't feel guilty when I beat you. I feel sorry for myself if I don't beat you. Can you understand this feeling? As soon as Yiro finished her words, she leaped into the air and grabbed at Fang Yan's neck like a dragonfly playing with a cat or an eagle fighting a tiger. Fang Yan turned his body and quickly dodged Yiro's attack. Yiro's ability to stay in the air was very strong. When her right hand missed, she waved her left hand again. With his right foot as the center, Fang Yan fled to the periphery in 360 degrees. Yiro's hands attacked quickly, dazzling people's eyes. Fang Yan's body spun like a tornado, making people unable to tell the real body from the illusion. Spin again. Plum blossom steps, cross doppelganger steps, drunken crane riding the wind. Fang Yan's chest was punched by Yiro. His body flew backward and crashed into the wall behind the curtain. Crack. Yiro landed on the ground with one foot and then leaped into the air again with her high heels. She chased after Fang Yan. Her feet turned into spears and kicked at Fang Yan as fast as lightning. Bang 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 bang, Fang Yan's body was hit by Yiro's cloud-piercing kick. His body rose infinitely and hit the high dome of the auditorium. Clang, Fang Yan's head went through the glazed roof. Half of his body was outside and the other half was swaying below. There's a hole in the roof. Some students exclaimed. Chapter 217. Is this a movie? Where's the camera? I already knew that our teacher Fang would enter the entertainment industry one day. This isn't a dream, right? Pinch me. C, which son of a bitch pinched me? Mr. Fang. Is he still alive? If the scene of Yiro hitting Fang Yan's head with a book was just an appetizer, what they saw now was the real feast. It was wonderful. It was exciting. It was violent. It was fantastical. It was dangerous. And it was so beautiful. They were worried about the safety of Fang Yan. They strongly condemned the violent behavior of the woman in black in their hearts. However, they really wanted to continue watching. What would the next plot be like? Would the woman in black continue to fight and cripple Mr. Fang Huohua and make him unable to lift his head for the rest of his life? Would Fang Yan fall to the bottom of the valley and turn into a Super Saiyan, beat the woman in black violently, take off her high heels, tear her black leather coat and hang her on the roof to bask in the moonlight? It was so exciting to think about it. Yi Rou's body landed lightly on the ground. She was not in a hurry, as if there was a breeze and white clouds around her feet. Click. The slender and sharp high heels on her feet made a crisp and sexy sound when they nailed to the ground. The scarf on her neck was still flying with the wind. Her short black hair was moving up and down, making her look free and easy and handsome. Yi Rou looked up at Fang Yan, who was hanging on the roof pretending to be a mummy, and shouted, "Fang Yan, come down." No one answered. "Do you think playing dead will work?" Yi Rou said with a sneer. Crack. Fang Yan's body fell from the roof, which made the audience scream again and again. Fang Yan stretched out his hand and combed his hair. His hairstyle, which he had specially taken care of before class and had applied a lot of hair gel, looked more supple and stylish. Just now, when he had used his head to drill through the roof, although he had pierced through the roof, his hair had also been flattened. You may never know what hairstyle means to a man. Especially a man who is not good-looking. Don't laugh, women are the same. Fang Yan tidied himself up and looked at Yi Wen shyly. "I didn't expect that I couldn't fool you even with this. You know how to use drunken crane riding the wind, but I'm more familiar with it than you are. Trying to show off in front of an expert, you're really seeking your own death." Just now, when Fang Yan was running in circles, he accidentally used drunken crane rides the wind. In other people's eyes, this was a mysterious footwork which could be used to escape or kill enemies. However, this move gave Yi Rou a chance to attack. Just as Yi Rou had said, Fang Yan knew drunken crane riding the wind, but Yi Rou was better at it than him. The creator of drunken crane riding the wind was the old drunkard. Fang Yan and Yi Rou had learned this unique skill from him. Although Fang Yan had learned it and was proficient in it, he didn't know it as well as Yi Rou, who often drank and practiced with the old drunkard. Yi Rou dissected drunken crane riding the wind's 36 big steps and the 81 small steps contained in it like a butcher dissecting an ox. A genius girl naturally had her own strengths. In Yi Rou's eyes, Fang Yan's movements were full of flaws. This was also the reason why she kicked Fang Yan away with her cloud steps. Fang Yan smiled awkwardly and said, "I get nervous when I see you. I'm so nervous that I forget my opponent is Yi Rou. If this is all you have, the chance of you escaping from Chiba Bing's sword is almost zero," Yi Rou said with a sneer. "You'll be the first person he kills when he travels to Huaxia's North Star Sword. Shouldn't I congratulate you?" "Yi Rou, don't think that I can't beat you, then come." Yi Rou waved at Fang Yan. Fang Yan's legs were staggered and his body was slightly short. His two arms were wrapped around each other as if he was holding a huge transparent goldfish bowl. He practiced stance before boxing. This was the Fang Plum Blossom stance. In Fang Yan's eyes, drunken crane riding the wind was better at close combat. However, because his opponent was Yi Rou, a woman who was better at that kind of footwork, he could only give it up and choose the more stable Fang Plum Blossom steps. People who practiced martial arts placed great importance on stance. If you practiced boxing without martial arts, you'd end up with nothing. The skill mentioned here was referring to the stance. In other words, stance. An unstable lower body was a big taboo, as it could create opportunities for the opponent. If you weren't careful, your head would be smashed by a punch. Therefore, Fang Yan, who had high hopes from his family when he was born, started practicing stance the moment he learned how to walk. Plum Blossom steps was what he was most familiar with and understood. Years of practice and comprehension had become part of his body's footwork. Even when he was walking, he couldn't help but use the steps in Plum Blossom steps. Fang Yan crooked his finger at Yi Rou, indicating that she should attack this time. Yi Rou didn't stand on ceremony. With a tap of her toes, she leaped up again. Yi Rou was tall, but her movements were extremely agile. When she flipped and rolled in the air, she looked like a sparrow, which earned her the nickname Nine Heavens Sparrow. More importantly, her ability to stay in the air was very good. Some people said that the highest level of Tai Chi was to merge one's body with nature, becoming one with nature. Yi Rou entered the Tao querying realm at a young age. Her body was like the wind, the moon, the mountains, the rivers, and the seas. He could be small or big, high or low. Even now it was still a legend in the circle. This was also the reason why Yi Wenro, who was at the Dao querying realm, could easily beat Fang Yan up like a dog in the annual competition between the Yi and Fang families. Under Yi Ro's pressure, Fang Yan finally entered the Tai Chi realm with the honor of being the youngest in the family. He had thought that the two of them could be evenly matched. If Fang Yan performed well, he could even break Yi Ro's winning record. To his surprise, perhaps because he was too nervous or there was something wrong with his cultivation method, the Tai Chi whirlpool that flowed like spring water suddenly stopped and disappeared. Fang Yan couldn't feel the heart of Tai Chi at all. Without the heart of Tai Chi, how could he enter the Tai Chi realm? In this case, if Fang Yan fought, he would definitely die. So he ran away shamefully. Whoosh! Yi Ro leaped into the air and stood upright at a 90-degree angle. From top to bottom, she stepped on Fang Yan's head with the force of Mount Tai. The slender high-heeled shoe was like a sharp blade that could cut through iron like mud, stabbing fiercely and rapidly at the top of Fang Yan's head. She knew that Fang Yan's Tai Chi cultivation was not shallow. If he didn't have some strength, it would be impossible for him to enter the Tai Chi realm that all martial artists yearned for. Therefore, she didn't plan to fight with her face-to-face, which would waste too much time. Instead, she pressed down from above and beat him down with a violent method that was far beyond his strength. This was also her first choice when she bullied and humiliated Fang Yan countless times. Of course, sometimes when she was really annoyed, she would also play some tricks. Just the falling majesty of a woman made Fang Yan feel that the dark clouds were rolling and a heavy rain was coming. It seemed that the sky was getting lower and lower, that the starry sky was about to fall, and that a planet was about to hit the earth where they were. Boom! Fang Yan's dantian seemed to be on fire, and a strong stream of air flowed around his body. It flashed like an electric shock, and then everything went back to normal in an instant. The heart of Tai Chi was activated again, and the Tai Chi realm appeared again. Without looking up, Fang Yan could clearly see Yi Ro's attack in the distance between her pointed high-heeled shoe and his head. He didn't need to look far to see the contradictory expressions of panic and excitement of the students in the audience, and even the students breathing in uncontrollable praises. That woman is so cool, God descends to the world. She jumped so high. Fang Yan was agitated and the Tai Chi realm almost disappeared. He hurriedly calmed himself down and ran on the plum blossom stakes, and then grabbed Yi Ro's ankle with both hands. Bang! Got it. In my region, all the territories are my territory and all the people are my subjects. Yi Ro was no exception. Fang Yan's body sprinted even faster and spun even faster. He held one of Yi Ro's ankles with both hands and made her run and spin with him. Fang Yan's body spun like a top, and Yi Ro's body was also spun like a top. Fang Yan's phantom turned into a plum blossom and so did Yi Ro's body. After removing all the strength from Yi Ro's body, Fang Yan grabbed her ankle with one hand and punched her chest with the other. Boom! After a loud bang, the two of them were instantly torn apart by the strong airflow. At the critical moment, Yi Ro's fist collided with Fang Yan's. It was a heavy punch against a heavy punch and a hard bone against a hard bone. It caused one's blood vessels to expand and the bones in one's body to crackle. Crack! Yi Ro's feet landed on the ground. Fang Yan stared at Yi Ro in astonishment. How did you do it? Fang Yan asked. You can break my Tai Chi realm. Because of the power of the Tai Chi realm, Fang Yan was full of confidence in it. In the Tai Chi realm, he was the well-deserved king. However, when he thought he had completely neutralized Yi Ro's chi, Yi Ro was able to fight back at the critical moment when he punched at Yi Ro's chest. Is this woman an unkillable cockroach? Is there anything in the world that can't stop her? Yi Ro wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, which was forced out by the internal chi. She stared at Fang Yan with her shining eyes and asked, Did the heart of Tai Chi come back to life? Fang Yan smiled proudly and said, Not only did it come back to life, but also the rotation of the heart vortex became stronger. There is running water at the head of the spring and the chi is endless. Yi Ro, do you really think you can beat me? I showed you mercy but you are aggressive. Do you think I dare not beat you? If you were not a woman. Yi Ro squinted her eyes and smiled, saying, If not? Fang Yan thought about it seriously and realized that he really couldn't do anything to Yi Ro. Such an answer made him very depressed and discouraged. He felt that life was really meaningless. Yi Ro's eyes became fierce again and she said, "If that's all, you can only survive under the sword of the Thousand Leaves army. If you want to win Tianfang Nightly Lake." Yi Ro crooked her hand at Fang Yan and said, "Again." Chapter 218. It looks like this woman isn't Mr. Fang's mother. Tangqing finally realized something was wrong and said, "We were deceived by Mr. Fang." Qin Etian was speechless. "It's not us who were deceived by Mr. Fang, it's you idiots who were deceived by Mr. Fang, okay? I didn't believe it from the very beginning." Chiba Kori turned to look at Qin Etian and asked in English, "What happened? This woman. Why did she come and beat up Mr. Fang Yan? In front of so many students. Isn't that a very rude thing to do?" Chiba Kori didn't understand Wuxia's language and couldn't hear the conversation between Fang Yan and Yi Ro on the stage, so she didn't know that this matter was closely related to her father, Chiba Kori. "This is a free sparring session between martial artists of Wuxia," Qin Etian said. "Killing a person every 10 steps, unstoppable for 1,000 miles. Fencing, chivalrous, fearless. This is the demeanor of a true martial artist." Tangqing didn't think so. It was obvious that Teacher Fang had done something shameful, and the girl came to his door to retaliate by beating him up. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The saying was true. Mr. Fang was beaten up like this, but in Qin Etian's eyes, it was still a sparring session. Was there such a hero? Of course Tangqing wasn't stupid. He wouldn't expose Qin Etian's disguise in front of his international friends. He leaned back and spoke to Chiba Kori with Qin Etian between them. Martial artists value freedom the most. Freedom of thought, spirit, and behavior is the only way to become a true martial arts master. It was normal for martial arts practitioners to draw their swords to lend a helping hand when they saw injustice. Fighting over a disagreement was a common occurrence. It doesn't matter to them where they fight or who the spectators are. Seeing Qin Etian glance at him, Tangqing's heart beat faster. He said, "Teacher Fang Yan is an extremely rare Tai Chi master. After his deeds spread, it's natural that some people came to challenge him. Wuxia is a country where everyone loves martial arts." "Thank you, Tangqing-san," Chiba Kori said gratefully. "I understand. Because of Teacher Fang Yan's reputation, there will always be people coming to challenge him, right?" She thought of her father. When her father had just started his career, he had often encountered such challenges. However, ever since her father became the #1 swordsman in Japan, there were fewer and fewer challenges like this. In the end there were no more. When the distance between you and your opponent is very close, they will be jealous of you and do everything possible to surpass you. When you leave your opponents far behind, they will only envy you and worship you. This is human nature. Does this mean that Teacher Fang Yan is not strong enough? Chiba Kori thought to herself. Then the match between father and Teacher Fang Yan. Father will not lose, right? "What a powerful woman," Chiba Kori said as she looked at Yi Ro on the stage. "Is that so?" Qin Etian had a bright smile on his face. Fang Yan's expression turned extremely solemn. He looked at Yi Ro, who was waving at him, and asked in a deep voice, "How strong is she?" "Very, very strong. You know. The old drunkard knows. Has the Chiba army come to Wuxia before?" 10 years ago, the old drunkard traveled to Japan to challenge the 13 sword sects on the island. He fought with the Chiba army, Yi Ro said. He lost. The old drunkard said, "The Chiba army's swordplay back then wasn't mature enough," Yi Ro said. "I understand," Fang Yan said with a nod. "This time I'll do my best." He crossed his legs slightly and drew a circle with the tips of his toes. He stretched out his arms and moved up and down like a bird flapping its wings. While defending, he returned to the true state of meditation. Fang Yan's mind was calm and his 7 senses were one. He forgot about everything around him. This wasn't a student's classroom and he wasn't standing in an auditorium with hundreds of people. He was on a flat grassland. He was on a dangerous mountain peak where he could reach out and pick up the sun and the moon. He was on the bank of the Yangtze River and he was on a vast beach. He forgot himself. He forgot who he was, what he came for, and why he left. He didn't know how to scheme or plot. He didn't ask for the cause or effect. He and Tai Chi became one. "I am Tai Chi, I mean Tai Chi." This time Fang Yan chose to take the initiative to attack. He used the Fong Plum Blossom steps and circled around Yi Rou. He walked faster and faster and his body gradually became illusory like a phantom. The arc of his arms also moved faster and faster like a fan with the highest horsepower. If one paid close attention, they would find that the track of Fong Yan's running was a circle, and the angle of his arms was a circle. There was no circle, no Tai Chi, and Fong Yan and Yi Rou formed the yin and yang of Tai Chi. Their feet landed silently and the white smoke rolled. The light above their heads was still so bright. However, in front of everyone, under the eyes of countless people, Fong Yan and Yi Rou's bodies disappeared just like that. They formed a circle and were enveloped by a substance that was unknown, whether it was dust or white gas. It was airtight. The audience didn't understand what had happened at all, and they also felt that the plot was getting worse and worse. Because they couldn't understand it or see it clearly. It was still as wonderful as the punches they had seen before. It was even worse than the scene where Yi Rou hit Fong Yan's head with a textbook. What on earth are they doing? Just as everyone was looking on in bewilderment, the sound of a huge explosion suddenly and violently rushed into their ears. Boom! The white smoke dispersed. Everyone felt their eardrums hurt. Fong Yan and Yi Rou finally appeared in front of everyone again. What was different was that Yi Rou stood still, while Fong Yan was pushed to the corner of the wall several meters away by the curtain. Fong Yan's mouth and nose were bleeding and he seemed to be seriously injured. That's it. This stunt is too fake, isn't it? Is this the legendary big gas explosion? If it weren't for the weird and depressing atmosphere, some people would have jumped up and said that they should change the channel. What the hell is this? Is that all? Yi Rou looked at Fong Yan in the distance and said, the law of integration of yin and yang in the Tai Chi state? Is that all? Fong Yan's mouth and nose were bleeding and his heart was bleeding. He did use the law of integration of yin and yang in the Tai Chi state. I am Tai Chi, Tai Chi. Everything in the world is Tai Chi. His steps were circular and so were his palm techniques. He rotated along Yi Rou, trying to use his yang pole to integrate Yi Rou's yin pole. The law of integration of yin and yang. As long as Yi Rou was integrated with him, she would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. It was up to Fong Yan to fight, kill, kiss or touch her breasts. It was easy to get out of the circle but difficult to get into the circle. It was easy to get out of the circle but difficult to get into the circle. It was not standing still but moving forward and retreating shoulder to shoulder. It could be as fast as a watermill and the clouds were like dragons, wind, tigers and elephants. It sounded profound, but in simple words, Fong Yan wanted to encircle Yi Rou with the Tai Chi circle so that the two of them could be integrated into a circle, and then he could control and molest her. Oh, he didn't molest her. As a result, Yi Rou refused Fong Yan's integration and slapped him in the face. The yin pole was too strong and the yang pole was too weak. Facing a tough woman like Yi Rou, Fong Yan was in so much pain that he wanted to hit his head against the wall. Only aliens can deal with her, right? Fong Yan thought. Yi Rou raised a finger to Fong Yan and said, "Congratulations, you have a chance to win." Again, Fong Yan said fiercely, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. This time he still took the initiative to rush toward Yi Rou, who was standing still in the center of the circle. Boom, Fong Yan flew out again. His back hit the desk on the stage that was used to hold the textbooks. Before the desk could fall, it was already broken into pieces, wooden pieces flying everywhere. 2 chances. Yi Rou stood still and raised 2 fingers to Fong Yan. Fong Yan jumped up from the ground like a carp and pounced on Yi Rou again. Boom, Fong Yan flew out again. Clang. His body slammed into the wall of the auditorium, creating a hole in the thick wall. Sand and dirt fell as if it had just experienced a slight earthquake. Fong Yan's hair was messy and his clothes were ragged. There were numerous cuts on his face and body which made him look miserable. He leaned against the wall and gasped for breath. The corner of his mouth was still bleeding. His nose seemed to be cut open and the blood flowed out more rapidly. He couldn't move and he didn't want to move. Yi Rou finally left her original position. She took a few steps back and retreated to the edge of the stage. She looked at Fong Yan and stretched out 3 fingers. Her voice sounded cold and inhuman. She said, 3 chances. But only 3 chances. Fong Yan, you are too weak. She picked up the language textbook from the ground. It was taken from a student's desk when she wanted to knock Fong Yan's head. With a light tap of her toes, she leaped off the stage. She looked like a beautiful black butterfly. She put the textbook on the boy's desk and said, "Thank you." Then, under the gaze of countless people, she held her head high and walked toward the entrance of the auditorium in her high-heeled shoes with slender and sharp heels. Pluck, pluck, pluck. The sound was crisp and sweet. Every sound seemed to knock on the hearts of all the people present. Wah! The door of the auditorium was opened. Bang! The door of the auditorium was closed again. Vomit. Yiro couldn't bear it anymore. She spat out a mouthful of blood. In the school field, in a place where no one could see. Chapter 219. Thud, thud, thud. It was the sound of shoes stepping on the grass. It was subtle and clear, indicating that the woman walking was very relaxed. Yiro knew that it was a woman coming. And it was a young woman. That kind of joyful mood, the almost silent footsteps, and the faint and fresh fragrance from her body couldn't be faked by a woman in her late 30s. What kind of person is this girl who can approach me so calmly and directly after witnessing my fierceness and violence when I beat people? Yiro was really a little curious. He turned around abruptly and met a pair of eyes that were as black as ink. What a beautiful pair of eyes. The pupils were like the eyes of a 1,000-year-old dragon hidden in the deep sea. And the whites of the eyes were like the ice crystal that could only appear after being nourished by the polar snow mountain for tens of thousands of years. The black was so black and the whites were so pure. There was a dragon's eye inlaid in the middle of the ice crystal. No one could resist such eyes, right? Yiro had been practicing martial arts since she was a child. She ate grains, drank mountain spring fruit juice, sweated to detoxify and washed her meridians. Her body was clean and her heart was clear. Yiro usually boasted that she had ethereal temperament and bright eyes, but compared with the girl in front of her, she felt a little ashamed. How does she look like this? She wore a white shirt and a checkered skirt. Maybe because of the cold weather she wore a black half-open sweater. She wore a special school uniform, but it was really hard to treat such a girl as an ordinary high school student. Is it hard? Xianxia looked at Yiro with a smile and asked, "What do you want to say?" Yiro stared at Xianxia coldly. "What's wrong with this little girl? Is it because I beat up her teacher Fang Yan so she followed me to avenge Fang Yan? She can kill such a delicate and lovely girl with one slap." "Thank you," Xianxia said. She bowed slightly to Yiro and said, "Thank you for everything you have done for Fang Yan." "You called him Fang Yan?" Yiro sneered and said, "Do you hate him that much? I beat him up like a dog in front of hundreds of teachers and students. And you chased after me to express your gratitude? You are really a woman who is not good at expressing herself." With a gentle and friendly smile on his face, Xianxia said, "I came all the way here just to help Fang Yan improve his strength and let him realize that he still needs to work harder. Even if I get injured, I don't care. I'm sure he'll be very grateful if he knows about this, right? Help him increase his strength. In order to motivate him to work harder?" Yuan sneered, "What a joke. What treasure do you think he is? What does his life have to do with me? I don't think you can understand my relationship with him. Beating him up every year is one of my few pleasures. I think he should be used to it by now, right?" "Really?" Xianxia was stunned and said, "I really envy the relationship between you two childhood friends. It seems that I have to upgrade your danger factor again." Yuan was angry and shouted, "Who the hell are you? It's such a simple fact. Can't you see it clearly?" Xianxia laughed. "I'm an admirer of Fang Yan." Yuan looked at Xianxia from head to toe with sharp eyes. This girl was extraordinary. When she shouted just now, she had used half of her sight. If it was an ordinary person who was not mentally strong or had a weak aura, he might have fallen to the ground under her attack. If she increased the strength of her attack, she could even hurt the opponent's internal organs, eardrums and eyes. It was the same as the lion roar of Buddhism. The more powerful the practitioner was, the more powerful the sight he could use. Of course, if the target was also powerful, he wouldn't be troubled by the sight attack. Yin was strong and Yang was weak, or Yin was weak and Yang was strong. Everything in the world was like this. However, Xianxia, who looked so soft and gentle to Yi Wenru, had endured the attack unscathed. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Just how strong is this girl's will? Yuan raised her head and said with a sneer, "An admirer of Fang Yan? You have bad taste." "I'm happy to hear that." Xianxia squinted his eyes and smiled. Who wants to see the treasure they like being fought over by a group of people? I have nothing to say to a childish kid. Yuan turned around and was about to leave. Wait. Qin Etian shouted. Yuan turned around and looked at Qin Etian and said, You can't beat me. Of course. Qin Etian nodded. Even 100 Qin Etian can't beat you. Qin Etian. Yiro made a mental note of this strange yet majestic name. Heaven reliance. What kind of woman could rely on heaven? Could she rely on heaven? Wasn't she afraid of being punished by the power of law of the 9 commandments of heavenly law? Qin Etian handed over a white handkerchief and said, I think you won't refuse this small gift. Yuan stared at Qin Etian for a few seconds and took the handkerchief to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. Then she turned around and strode away. What a proud woman, Qin Etian muttered to herself as she watched Yiro's retreating figure. Tangqing walked out of the dark corner and said, I was worried that you would find her and fight with her. Would I do such a stupid thing? Qin Etian asked. You're right. Even if we don't fight, it's possible to quarrel. Why would we quarrel? Qin Etian said with a smile. Quarreling with her is fighting with her. Don't try to awaken a woman's possessive desire for an object or a man. It's a terrible thing. I'll thank her on behalf of Fang Yan. Isn't that better? Tangqing felt a chill down his spine. A woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. What are these women thinking all day long? Mr. Fang, tonight's incident is really a bit big. A hole was made in the roof of the auditorium and even a large part of the wall was caved in. Li Mingqiang sat in front of Fang Yan cautiously as if he would run away at any time. Tonight was the first big class that Fang Yan gave to the freshmen. As a hardcore ally and close friend of Fang Yan, of course he had to take time to come and support him. He also thought that if Fang Yan couldn't control the situation, he would stand up for Fang Yan with his authority as the dean of teaching for many years. Wouldn't Fang Yan look at him in a different light and rely on him more? What happened in the end completely shocked him. He didn't have a chance to lend his authority to Fang Yan. Instead he watched Fang Yan being beaten in an awe-inspiring manner. Why was being beaten in an awe-inspiring manner? Putting himself in Fang Yan's shoes. If Li Mingqiang was in that position, he would have either been sent flying or smashed into the roof and wall, creating a large hole. If that was the case, Li Mingqiang would have gone to see Guanyin Bodhisattva long ago. But Fang Yan took it head-on and was still alive and well. If that was the case, how strong must teacher Fang Yan be? Li Mingqiang was afraid that if he said something wrong, Fang Yan would suddenly reach out and slap him to death. It would be like slapping a mosquito to death. The students were also very surprised. They felt that this was really too inconceivable. I think this matter will soon spread within the school, and even the whole of Huaqing or even a wider area will be talking about it. I was worried that it would have some unnecessary impact on Mr. Fang's work and life, so I took the initiative to come out and explain that this was a project of teacher Fang Yan and a film company. Of course, I didn't explain too specifically so that everyone could make their own associations and then supplement and process it to convince themselves. Li Mingqiang looked at Fang Yan's cold expression and said with a smile, I don't know if Mr. Fang is satisfied with this way of handling it. Fang Yan looked up at Li Mingqiang and said, This is real. There is no need to explain anything. Are you worried about causing panic? Let the students know that this kind of thing is normal and they will get used to it. If we deny the existence of Huaxia's kung fu, how can we spread it? Li Mingqiang's heart was in his throat. It's over. Fang Yan is not satisfied with the way he handled it. You won't hit me, right? You won't slap me to the wall or kick me to the roof, right? However, I still have to thank Director Li. I'm very sorry about tonight's matter. I didn't explain it to the school in advance. Sorry for troubling you. Fang Yan said apologetically. It's nothing, it's nothing. Li Mingqiang waved his hand. No students were injured and it opened the eyes of the students. Until now they are still very excited and kept talking about tonight's big class. Will the next big class follow this standard? No, Fang Yan said. The next big class will only be the content before I was beaten. Then the students will be very sorry. Li Mingqiang said. Director Li, I'm sorry I said the wrong thing. Li Mingqiang realized that he had made a fatal mistake. How could he encourage Fang Yan to be beaten again? This time he lost face in front of so many students. Next time he would lose face in front of even more students. Who would want to do that? I'm afraid the students will have opinions. After all, tonight's matter will definitely be spread out. Other classes will also know the content of the class. Fang Yan's eyes glanced at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, who stood in the corner of the room and didn't dare to breathe. He said, Director Li's words also make sense. Next time let's change the standard. Chapter 220. Did Mr. Fang agree? Li Mingqiang said happily. He was a great director who would put his life and death aside for the students' benefit. Because when he said that, Fang Yan could slap him to death at any time. According to the previous standard, Fang Yan would be beaten by Yi Rou again. Fang Yan's heart was boiling with anger. He felt his temper was getting better and better. Even now, Li Mingqiang was still alive and kicking in front of him, ready to dig a hole to bury him. What standard should I change to? Do I still need the girl in black to cooperate with me? The school doesn't have her contact information. Do I still need Mr. Fang to communicate with her? Fang Yan didn't want to communicate with Yi Rou. He didn't mind sending Li Mingqiang to communicate with Yi Rou. That is, if I can find her resting place. As for the expenses, the school should be able to reimburse us. If Teacher Fang has the receipt, we can also reimburse him for the appearance fee. This is for the sake of the school's students. We can't possibly let Teacher Fang pay for it himself. But next time we must be more careful. Safety first. Don't let a situation like hanging your head from the roof or smashing your body against the wall happen again, right? It's too violent. I'm worried about the physical condition of Mr. Fang and the girl, and the students can't accept it. What I mean is, I get beaten this time and next time I hit someone. Fang Yan interrupted Director Li Mingqiang and said seriously. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan looked at each other, and their heads were about to drill into the soil. They could feel the strong murderous look in Fang Yan's eyes when he looked at them. Oh, next time it's Mr. Fang's turn to hit that girl? I can't beat her. Fang Yan waved his hand and said. I have another candidate. I'll inform Director Li after I communicate with them. Director Li, you've worked hard for most of the night. Go back and rest. Sure. Then I won't disturb Mr. Fang's rest. Li Mingqiang quickly got up. Mr. Fang, hurry up and rest. The wound on your face. It doesn't matter. I have medicine. Fang Yan said. After Li Mingqiang left, Fang Yan coldly snorted and shouted, Fang Yingying, Fang Haohan, you two come here. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan knew that they couldn't escape, so they bowed and stood in front of Fang Yan. Fang Yingying smiled and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, you must be thirsty after talking so much tonight, right? I'll get you a glass of water. After saying that, he turned and ran towards the kitchen. Junior Marshal Uncle, you must be tired after being hit so hard tonight, right? I'll get you some water to wash your feet. Fang Haohan turned and ran towards the bathroom. You two come back. Fang Yan shouted angrily. Fang Yingying stared at Fang Haohan fiercely. This idiot, why did you mention my sore spot? They stood in front of Fang Yan again. They looked away and didn't dare to look at Fang Yan's eyes. Where is she? Fang Yan asked. Junior Marshal Uncle, Hero and I searched the whole school, but we didn't find Miss Ye's trace. I think she may have left. Fang Yingying replied in a low voice. You know Miss Ye's temper. If she doesn't want to do something, no one can force her. Fang Yan was silent. Yi Rou came suddenly and left so suddenly? After a while he said, Tell me what's going on? Fang Yingying didn't answer. Fang Haohan looked at Fang Yingying and didn't answer either. What? Are you stubborn? Fang Yan sneered. You heard my conversation with Director Li, right? I'll change the standard in the next class. I was hit by Yi Rou tonight. Next time you two accompany me to the class. Plop. Fang Haohan knelt down in front of Fang Yan. He lowered his head and said with a bitter expression, Junior Marshal Uncle, it's all Fang Yingying's fault. You asked him to call for help, but he called Miss Yi. He knew Miss Yi would come, but he didn't tell us in advance. If he had told me in advance, I would have told Junior Marshal Uncle in advance and asked Junior Marshal Uncle to escape in advance. And get ready for the fight. But he even hid it from me. Tonight on the stage he wanted me to hide it for him. I felt guilty and felt that it was a betrayal to Junior Marshal Uncle. So I'm going to expose Fang Yingying as a traitor. He betrayed me and Junior Marshal Uncle. He is an undercover agent that Miss Yi put beside us. Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent but afraid of a pig-like teammate. What happened to advancing and retreating together? Didn't they say that they would live and die together? Junior Marshal Uncle hadn't tortured him yet, but Fong Haohen betrayed him? Fong Yingying's face turned pale and he quickly knelt down in front of Fong Yen. He said hurriedly, Junior Marshal Uncle, don't believe Fong Haohen's words. He's purposely framing me. He's doing this for revenge. Last time he bought 5 peaches and I ate 1 more. He's been holding a grudge against me ever since. Junior Marshal Uncle, I did call Master, but I didn't expect Miss Yi to answer the phone. I didn't call Miss Yi on purpose. You know me. I'm fat but I'm cowardly. I don't even have the courage to talk to Miss Yi. Why would I take the initiative to call her? Fong Yingying hugged Fong Yan's leg and cried bitterly. He looked extremely miserable. Junior Marshal Uncle, please look into the details and help me wash away the shame and return my innocence. I can't let Fong Haohen, that despicable villain, succeed in his conspiracy and take advantage of me. Bang. Bang. Fong Yen kicked the 2 of them and said, it's decided. Next time you 2 come with me to the big class. Junior Marshal Uncle. The 2 of them cried and fell to the ground. It seemed that they couldn't run away from a beating. Have you heard? Last night, during the big class, Teacher Fong Yen fought with a woman in black for 300 rounds. Are you serious? He did that kind of shameless thing in the class. What are you thinking about? I'm talking about the fight. Teacher Fong Yen was beaten by my queen. That was a movie, right? Must be a movie? Think about it. If there was no steel wire, how could a person fly so high? It should be real, right? At that time, Teacher Fong Yen was giving a lecture to everyone. How could he have time to tie the steel wire? Because when he came out, it was already done. Think about it. He stood on the stage during the class and didn't step down, right? It didn't matter if Fong Yen liked it or not. The story of Fong Huohua's fight with the Leather Queen spread throughout Rosefinch Secondary. Some students posted the photos they took with their mobile phones on the internet, which attracted a lot of netizens' clicks and comments. Most people were skeptical about this and felt that it was impossible. It was just like the video of a Tai Chi descendant gently pushing a dozen strong men in white and making them fly backward in all kinds of exaggerated postures. It was fake, malicious hype and discrediting Huaxia Kung Fu. Of course, there were a few people who thought it was true. These people were Rosefinch's students who had witnessed the scene. Because the scene at that time was too surprising and shocking, even if Li Mingqiang later explained that it was a collaboration between Teacher Fong Yen and the film company, they still didn't want to believe that it was so simple. However, their words were easily drowned out by the criticism and ridicule, unable to cause any ripples. Of course, there was another small group that was paying attention to this matter. After Chiba Kiru went back, she told her father, Chiba Hajime, what had happened that night. Chiba Hajime and Fong Yen had come into contact, and he had even tried to attack Fong Yen with his claw sword. Fong Yen had dodged it. Just dodging it made Chiba Hajime look at Fong Yen in a new light. It was a habit he had developed over the years to stain his sword with blood. The fact that Fong Yen could dodge his killer move without being hurt proved that he had the strength to fight him. This was also the reason why he took the initiative to set a 1-month deadline with Fong Yen at the top of One Sword Peak. It should be noted that not everyone was qualified to be Chiba Hajime's opponent. Playing this kind of hype trick. He must be crazy to become famous, Chiba Hajime said with a sneer. Qingyin, what do you think? Chiba Hajime asked. Qingyin, whose whole face was hidden in the black cloak, looked at the picture on the computer and said, he does have the strength to do so. Yes, he does have the strength to do so, Chiba Hajime said. If he can't face his opponent, he will never be able to determine the gap between him and his opponent. Father, if Miss Fong Yen is really as powerful as you said. Chiba Hajime pointed at Yi Ro in the picture and said, then she beat Miss Fong Yen. I saw with my own eyes that Miss Fong Yen couldn't fight back in front of her. Doesn't this mean that the woman is more powerful? Compared to her father, who is more powerful? Chiba Hajime looked at Yi Ro's proud and pretty face in the picture and the fierce light in her eyes. He said with a smile, the world is black and the earth is yellow and the universe is primitive. The sun and the moon rise and fall and the stars and constellations are arranged. The clouds bring rain and the dew turns into frost. Gold is born in Lishui and jade is born in Kangong. 5,000 years of culture and millions of miles of fertile land nourished them. It's not surprising that 3 dragons and 2 phoenixes are born. Father. Chiba Hajime was full of resentment. His father valued Fang Yen Yiro and the other Wuxia monkeys so much? Kill the dragons and kill the phoenixes, Chiba Hajime said heroically. I have the North Star Sword and the fate of the world is in my hands. Chapter 221. Yiro came with a bang and left with a gust of wind. She became the queen in the eyes of countless boys and the idol of countless girls in Rosefinch Secondary. Because of Yiro's arrival, Fang Yen suddenly found that black shirts and pants were popular in Rosefinch Secondary. What was more surprising was that it didn't spread among the students, but among the female teachers. Turned out that every woman dreamed of being a queen. No matter which female teacher walked to the podium in a black leather shirt, black leather pants, black high heels, and a small scarf tied around her neck, they would be cheered wildly by the students. Fang Yen wasn't affected at all. He went to class, ate and slept as usual. Standing on the podium, Fang Yen said with a smile, I've assigned the homework. I hope you can think about it when you go back, although I can't check whether you have thought about it or not. Well, today's class is over. Class dismissed. After saying that, Fang Yen walked toward the office with the language textbook that he rarely opened. Miss Fang Yen. Someone shouted behind him. Fang Yen turned around and saw Chiba Kori standing behind him in her Rosefinch uniform with a smile. He stopped and asked with a smile, Chiba Kori, what can I do for you? Chiba Kori opened her mouth, but she couldn't express her thoughts in Wuxia language. She had been in Wuxia for a while and had learned some simple pronunciation in Wuxia language, but she still couldn't speak it as fluently as other students. She couldn't understand most of the lessons taught by Fang Yen or other teachers. She could only study by herself and tutor after class. Of course, she didn't care about how many points she could get in each test. What she cared about was whether she could be influenced by the pure Wuxia culture and obtain the secret of the ultimate tea ceremony. What she really wanted to find out was why Qin Etian could beat her in the tea ceremony competition. That was the only reason why she came to Wuxia. A pure and stubborn girl. Teacher Fang Yen, can I speak in English? Chiba Kori asked Fang Yen with an apologetic smile. Sure. Fang Yen nodded. My English level might be the same as your Wuxia level, so I'll try to keep it simple. Thank you. Chiba Kori bowed in gratitude. Teacher Fang Yen, I know that you are going to have a duel with my father, is that right? Fang Yen looked at Chiba Kori with a burning gaze as he pondered the hidden meaning behind the girl's question. Wouldn't it be better to feign ignorance? Fang Yen nodded and said, It's your father who challenged me. I'm still considering if I should go. As you know, our schedule is rather tight. I'm Chiba Karu's language teacher, not Chiba Karu's swordsmanship opponent. I'm sure you'll be there, right? Chiba Kori asked. Fang Yen frowned and asked, Why do you say that? It's just a hunch. Chiba Kori's smile was gentle and sweet. She was humble and obedient from the bottom of her bones, making it impossible for anyone to dislike her. Maybe it's because of a man's pride, or maybe it's because of the pursuit of ultimate swordsmanship or national justice. I'm sure you'll be there. Are you looking forward to it? Fang Yen asked. There was a hint of anger in his heart. What's wrong with this girl? Your younger brother bullied my student and got beaten up by me. In the end, your family tried everything to beat me up, sending ninjas to sneak up on me and challenging me with Chiba Karu. Even so, I still let you study in my classroom with a big heart. Did I make you stand at the door as punishment when you can't answer a question? Did I deduct points from your language test? Although you only scored 5 points, I don't know how to deduct points without being discovered. But are you looking forward to your father beating me up? How so? Chiba Kori shook her head lightly. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm more nervous. I don't want my father to lose to you because I know that he's spent his entire life pursuing the ultimate swordsmanship. This battle is very meaningful to him. But my parents didn't give birth to me just to be beaten up, Fang Yen said with an unfriendly expression. You don't want your father to lose, so you're looking forward to me losing? Are you telling me this because you want me to let your father go? Fang Yen thought. He wished that he could proudly and boldly say, Don't worry, I won't beat him to death. I'll beat him half to death, if he can beat me. Mr. Fang Yan, you've misunderstood me. Chiba Kori looked anxious. She quickly explained in English, I don't want my father to lose, but I don't want you to lose either. You're a good teacher, a teacher that everyone respects. I can tell from the other students' eyes that they like and admire you. You're their role model. I think they don't want you to lose. Fang Yan looked at Chiba Kori with a puzzled expression. She didn't want her father to lose, and neither did she want herself to lose. However, since it was a martial arts competition, there was bound to be a winner and a loser. Fang Yan would go all out and Chiba Kori wouldn't hold back either. This was a form of respect for the opponent as well as for what she had learned. I'm really conflicted. Chiba Kori flicked her long hair and said with sincerity in her eyes, I just hope that all of you can get what you want. When the time comes, I'll be there to cheer for all of you. Fang Yan patted Chiba Kori's shoulder. You're a good student just like the other students in class 9. 10 feet abyss. This place isn't bad, right? Qin Etian asked as he looked at the beautiful scenery before him. Clear water, blue sky and mountains in the distance. A cool breeze blew and the sun set. It was truly the best scenery in the world. 10 feet abyss. 10 feet is heaven and 10 feet is hell. Fang Yan said with a smile. Why did you think of having a meal here? After satisfying their material needs, people began to seek spiritual enjoyment. They sought novelty and excitement. For example, climbing the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, which was covered in ice and snow, or crossing the Amazon, which was filled with poisonous snakes and wild beasts, or searching for gold in the desert, or exploring the South Pole, and eating the food from the East Ocean. As long as you could think of it, there was nothing they couldn't do. Fang Yan felt that today's dinner was actually an adventure. The tables and chairs were placed at the edge of the cliff. If the goblet on the table tilted a little, it could fall into the canyon and shatter into pieces. Of course, the same went for people. This was the origin of the name 10 feet abyss. A handsome waiter in a white shirt and a black waistband attentively poured red wine for the two. Qin Etian picked up the glass and gently shook it, saying, Have you ever had such a feeling? When you eat a delicious dish, a thought will emerge in your heart. I must bring him here next time. When you see a beautiful scenery, your heart will think, I must bring him here next time. When you see the best and most suitable for you, your heart will be very eager to find another person to share it with. Only in this way that dish will have value and that scenery will have soul. Qin Etian looked at Fang Yan and said, I discovered this restaurant 3 years ago, so I thought of bringing someone here. Fang Yan picked up the wine glass in front of him and gulped down the red wine in the glass. Qin Etian chuckled and said, You don't need to run away and you don't need to hide anything. I didn't ask you to marry me now, did I? I won't do such a stupid thing. Fang Yan thanked the waiter, took the wine bottle from his hand, and poured himself a glass of red wine. He was not used to being served by strangers. He would stand beside you when you were eating, he would stand beside you when you were drinking, he would stand beside you when you were choking on wine or accidentally dropping a piece of pork rib on the table, he would stand beside you when you were telling a humorous or lame joke. He would even be too embarrassed to tell dirty jokes to your female companion, otherwise he would call you a big idiot in his heart. However, if you didn't tell a dirty joke to your female companion in such a beautiful and spectacular place, you would probably blame yourself for being too stupid for many years to come. Since that was the case, Fang Yan might as well get rid of this eyesore. Having someone pour the wine for him didn't mean that he was a cut above others. He needed someone to help him count the money. I'm not running away, nor am I hiding. I'm just thinking. Although there are a lot of negative news in the education field, such as the scumbag principal who molested primary school students and the doctoral supervisor who molested female graduate students, there is still true love in the world. My student, Fang Yan, is willing to invite me to dinner and chat with me in such a beautiful and luxurious place. As an ordinary language teacher, I feel that my job is full of sacred meaning. Do you have to say such unpleasant words to change the topic? Qin Etian sipped the red wine and asked with a smile. Fang Yan looked at Qin Etian in surprise and said, You saw through me again? Then he shook his head angrily and said, You're too smart. I don't feel safe when I'm with you. Qin Etian put down the wine glass, and his dark and shining pupils were filled with Fang Yan and the thousands of rays of light behind Fang Yan. He said, Do men really like stupid girls? My mother is very smart, the smartest person in the world, but my father still likes her very much. That depends on the person, Fang Yan said. If you like someone, you won't care whether she is smart or stupid. Then what are your criteria for choosing a partner? Fang Yan thought seriously and said, big breasts and round buttocks. Don't look, you don't fit any of them. And there may not be much room for development in the future. We're really not suitable for each other. Chapter 222. For a high school student, Xianxia's figure was actually quite good. Slender and tall, she was in high spirits. She had the unique vigor of a young person, but also a maturity that shouldn't belong to her age. However, if she wanted to be the standard of big breasts and round buttocks that Fang Yan mentioned, she might not have the chance in this lifetime. Because her bones were thin and narrow, belonging to the slender type. Even if a peach became plump when it ripened, it could not become a fleshy bomb that people often talked about. This was determined by congenital constitution. Xianxia looked at Fang Yan with a natural expression, not taking Fang Yan's joke about her thin figure seriously at all. She said, "You denied my present and my future. Don't you think it's cruel to do this?" Fang Yan said helplessly, "Men tell dirty jokes to women because they want to see the cute, blushing and shy look of the girl. The gentleness when she lowers her head is just like the shyness of a water lotus that can't withstand the cold wind. For women, this kind of state is the most beautiful and sexy state. You are so calm and generous, don't you think it's too disrespectful of men's labor?" A blush appeared on Xianxia's face. Her right hand gently brushed away a strand of hair hanging down to her forehead. Her eyelashes were curved and her eyes blinked. She looked at Fang Yan shyly and said, "Is that so? This is how a woman should behave when she hears dirty jokes." Fang Yan said with relief. "Then let's do it again," Xianxia said. "Fang Yan, tell me another dirty joke." Seeing Fang Yan's stunned look, the two looked at each other and laughed. Fang Yan shook his head with a smile and said, "Xianxia, most of the time I really can't treat you as a child. If I'm not careful, I will treat you as an adult." Xianxia glanced at Fang Yan and said, "We sat down for less than 20 minutes, and you have insulted me twice in a row. Fortunately, you are Fang Yan, who I like, or I would have kicked you into this abyss." The 10 Feet Abyss was one of the most unique restaurants in Yangcheng. Countless rich ladies, second or third generation rich, second or third generation rich, second or third generation rich men with deep family backgrounds would choose to dine and drink here. They were all extremely low-profile young masters who frequented high-class places and never engaged in small talk with others. How romantic was it to chat and drink with the person you loved on the edge of a precipitous cliff under the afterglow of the setting sun. Then he took a photo and sent it to his WeChat moments. He wrote, "Sunshine and you are here. This is the future I want. I'm waiting for my best friend to praise me on the surface and curse this woman behind my back." Wu Yiwei was the manager on duty at the 10 Feet Abyss restaurant today. Because the 10 Feet Abyss restaurant was only open to members, and these members were all wealthy and respectable people, the restaurant's employees were highly capable. This was especially true for a manager on duty like her. Maintaining the relationship with the VIP customers, making them pay a hefty membership fee every year, and even ordering the most expensive Lafite was a test of one's EQ and IQ. Wu Yiwei did a great job in this aspect, and this was also the best proof of her promotion from a receptionist to a manager on duty in just 3 years. All the seats were booked, and the 10 Feet Abyss restaurant's business was booming as usual. However, this didn't mean that Wu Yiwei's work for the day was over. There were still many distinguished guests who had yet to arrive, and she had to wait at the entrance to greet them. Several luxury cars stopped at the restaurant's entrance. Wu Yiwei's eyes lit up and she quickly walked to the door of the first Bentley. She took the initiative to open the back door and said with a charming smile, "Third young master, you're finally here. I've been waiting at the entrance ever since I received your call. I was worried that I wouldn't have the chance to see third young master's elegant demeanor tonight. How regretful would that be?" Zhang Lin got out of the luxury car, but he didn't hug Wu Yiwei and take advantage of her like before. Instead, he looked at her in a very gentlemanly manner and said, "I'm here to accompany a few friends for a drink and a chat. You must help me entertain them." Fear. Wu Yiwei could see a trace of fear from Zhang Lin's words and eyes. One must know that when Zhang Lin came over in the past, he would casually put his arm around her shoulder and say, "I'm here to play with a few friends. You must help me entertain them." In the past he used the word bring. He was the leader and those who came with him were all his subordinates. This time he used the word accompany. He was only here to accompany them, not the real protagonist tonight. Huaxia's writing was broad and profound, and the difference of a single word was like the difference between heaven and earth. Wu Yiwei was a graduate of ancient Chinese literature, so how could she not understand the meaning behind it? Thus, her phoenix eyes swept around and immediately recognized the real soul of this group of young masters. Lu Qingming. Lu Qingming was a member of Huaqing's Lu family and the cousin of Lu Shu, one of the four beauties of Huaqing. Because Lu Shu's previous reputation was too resounding, Lu Qingming seemed insignificant in comparison. Later on, he heard that Lu Shu had an accident and didn't appear in public for a long time. For some unknown reason, the Lu family pushed Lu Qingming out on several important occasions. Thus, Lu Qingming became a hot figure in Huaqing all of a sudden. Towards such a powerful figure, Wu Yiwei naturally paid attention to him. Of course, Wu Yiwei knew the rules. She wouldn't immediately greet and curry favor with Lu Qingming just because his background was deeper than Zhang Lin's. That would only make Lu Qingming look down on her and similarly make Zhang Lin feel disgusted. What she needed to do was to take care of Zhang Lin, and at the same time, greet Lu Qingming and let him know that she knew that he was an important figure. That was enough. Just as Wu Yiwei was thinking about this, a scene that surprised her appeared. After getting off the car, Lu Qingming walked to the Mercedes-Benz at the end of the line in an extremely natural manner. He very naturally helped to open the back door and invited a bespectacled man who looked refined yet very ordinary. Wu Yiwei's heart suddenly shrank. Lu Qingming was already the top young master in Huaqing's circle. Then who was the man who took the initiative to open the door for him? "Weiwei, is our position ready?" Zhang Lin patted Wu Yiwei's shoulder, signaling her to come back to her senses. "Third young master, everything is ready. I will accompany you," Wu Yiwei said with a charming smile. The group of people passed through the side road and walked towards the cliff on the left. There was a large protruding boulder, and the stone was simply surrounded by a railing. Then there was a large white table and a few white round chairs on it. Obviously, that was the position that Zhang Lin had booked in advance. At this moment, Jiang Junling, who was walking in the back, suddenly stopped. Jiang Junling was the person that Lu Qingming paid attention to. Seeing his strange action, Lu Qingming, who was explaining the uniqueness of this restaurant, immediately shut his mouth and looked in the direction that he was looking at with a strange look in his eyes. It was a man and a woman. The man was handsome and the woman had a noble and peerless temperament. Jiang Junling didn't speak and Lu Qingming didn't ask either. He knew that Jiang Junling was a person who didn't like to talk much. And he had just replaced Lu Shu's position, so he didn't have a clear understanding of Jiang Junling's character and temper. The less he spoke, the less mistakes he would make. Since Jiang Junling and Lu Qingming stopped, the people behind them naturally stopped as well. Zhang Lin and Wu Yiwei only reacted after walking a few steps. Zhang Lin glanced at the direction that Lu Qingming was looking at and looked at Wu Yiwei. "The scenery on the other side of that table is better. I want that table." The smile on Wu Yiwei's face stiffened, but it returned to normal in an instant. She hugged Zhang Lin's arm and rubbed her plump breasts against his body. Then she gently and meticulously explained, "Third young master, since you like that table, I will definitely prepare it for you in advance next time. I will prepare it for you whenever you want it." Zhang Lin, who used to be obedient to Wu Yiwei, suddenly became fierce and ruthless. He ignored Wu Yiwei's ambiguous attack and sneered, "I want it now. Third young master, the dishes have just been served. It's really difficult for me." Wu Yiwei smiled obsequiously and begged. "What's the background of that man and woman?" Zhang Lin asked. "It's Miss Qin who booked the table," Wu Yiwei said. "Although Miss Qin rarely eats here, she has been a 3-year senior member of the 10 Feet Abyss. I have never seen that man." "Miss Qin? Which family's Miss Qin is she from?" Zhang Lin asked again. Wu Yiwei shook her head and said, "I only know that her surname is Qin, but I don't know which family she is from." "Third young master, you don't know her either?" "It's easier to talk if you don't know her." Zhang Lin chuckled. "I don't care how you do it. Immediately chase them away. I want the table they're sitting at now. Third young master, the location of Pigeon Back is actually quite good. The feng shui is excellent and the view is wide. Look, there's a large stretch of beach right across and the canyon is filled with smoke. Slap. Zhang Lin slapped Wu Yiwei's face and scolded, "Stinking whore, do you want to die? Don't you know how much money I spent on you? I gave you face in the past but now you're not giving me face?" Third young master, it's not that I don't want to help but our 10 feet abyss has a rule. We can't chase away other customers or force them to give up their table for no reason. If I do that, the reputation of our 10 feet abyss will be ruined. Although Wu Yiwei was slapped, she still explained in a low voice. She knew that these young masters were temperamental. When they got close to you, it was because they were pretending to be refined. When you accidentally angered them and they bared their fangs at you, that was their true colors. In their eyes, they simply didn't treat a small character like her as a person. Zhang Lin looked at Wu Yiwei with a sneer and said, "You don't dare but I do. I'll go talk to them. I think they will give me Zhang Lin face." Lu Qingming stood beside Jiang Junling and whispered, "Zhang Lin, the youngest son of Blue Sky Group's Zhang Qingpu, is a good dog." Chapter 223. As a good dog, it had to have the awareness to pounce and bite people for its owner. Zhang Lin was the third son of the Blue Sky Group's boss, Zhang Qingpu. The Blue Sky Group was a very famous construction company in Huaqing. 20 years ago, Zhang Qingpu was just a small labor contractor who led a dozen villagers to build houses for people. An annual income of 1,800,000 yuan was enough to satisfy him. He felt that there was no job in the world more blissful than being a labor contractor. He decided to be a contractor for the rest of his life. This was a career that could bring honor to his ancestors. Later he had the opportunity to meet Lu Qingtian, the core figure of the Lu family. Lu Qingtian valued his ability and asked him a question. "Do you want to be a big shot?" Big shot. Zhang Qingpu hadn't figured out the difference between a big shot and a big shot before he nodded in a panic. He knew that this was a huge opportunity for him. Therefore, with the support of the Lu family's funds and connections, Zhang Qingpu's Zhang Qingpu construction team became the Blue Sky Company, and the Blue Sky Company became the current Blue Sky Group. Zhang Qingpu became a famous figure in the business world of Huaqing. He could make countless people look at him with a stomp of his foot. At the same time, he also became a dog under Lu Qingtian's tutelage. Like many other distinguished Shar-Pei dogs, they either guarded the door or bit people. They had a clear division of labor and would never overstep their boundaries. If someone gave you a bone, you would be their dog. Very fair. What was worse was that this relationship could be inherited from generation to generation. His father, Zhang Qingpu, was Lu Qingtian's dog, so Zhang Lin naturally became Lu Qingming's dog. It was a matter of course. Even Zhang Lin himself didn't have any objections. Zhang Lin wasn't the kind of man who would have his hormones skyrocket at the sight of a beautiful woman. Which man in their circle didn't go through hundreds of battles? Some of the less famous models or female students who didn't have a background were 10 times better than those celebrities who showed off in the media. He didn't have any ill feelings towards the young man and woman. He even felt that they looked like a perfect match. However, he didn't know why the noble from Yanjing was unhappy with them. Although he didn't show anything, although Lu Qingming didn't give him any instructions or promises, he was the one who arranged the dinner tonight. However, he was the organizer of this dinner tonight, so he had to stand up and pull a cloud to make some noise. At least he had to give them a chance to speak and intervene. He was a dog and a dog had to have its uses. Every family has its own difficulties. As a rich second generation with dreams and a bright future, do you think his life is easy? He hadn't seen the woman or heard of the man. Fortunately, the young man and woman were just two ordinary people. Zhang Lin walked to Fang Yan and said with a smile, "Perhaps this is a little sudden for you, but this is entirely for your own good. Give me your table. You have two choices. First, I'll get someone to arrange another table for you." Zhang Lin pointed to the sizzling steak that had just been served on the table and said, "Pack it up and leave." Zhang. Zhang as he said, Zhang and Zhang. Zhang Fang Yan, who was about to cut his steak, looked at Qin Etian with a troubled expression. "Next time, can we not go to a restaurant that costs more than 100 renminbi per person? The first time I went to Sky One, someone tried to kill me. The second time someone wanted to beat me. Zhang. Someone wants to bully me again. I often bring Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan to the small restaurant near the school gate to eat fish with pickled cabbage. The boss is very friendly to me. Everyone who sees me would respectfully address me as Fong Laosher. No one has ever asked me to pack up my table and leave. Last night I watched a popular idol drama. At a high-class party, the second female lead felt that the first female lead didn't deserve to wear branded clothes to such a high-class party, so she splashed the first female lead's face with the red wine in her glass. Maybe they all think I don't deserve to eat at such a place? Otherwise, why would I be hated by people everywhere I go? Qin Etian didn't even want to look at Zhang Lin. He was afraid that it would affect his good mood and appetite. He swirled the wine glass in his hand and said with a smile, "You don't deserve to eat here. Who do they think they are?" Zhang Lin's eyes became vicious. He looked at Qin Etian and said, "You don't know how to cherish me when I talk nicely. When I stop talking it will be too late for you to regret it. I'll give you 1 minute. Immediately disappear from my sight." Fang Yan patted Zhang Lin's butt and said, "All right, young man, stop messing around. Whenever there's a scene of a hooligan looking for trouble on TV, there must be an unspeakable conspiracy behind it. Do you like my female partner? Or do you like my female partner's male partner?" Zhang Lin's head turned a few times before he realized who the female partner's male partner was. His face was as ugly as pig's blood. This bastard, did he think he was gay? Zhang Lin was so angry that he laughed and said, "Looks like you don't want to give me face? I don't even know who you are. Why should I give you face?" Fang Yan asked. "Pa." A big hand was placed on Fang Yan's shoulder. A black-clothed man got Zhang Lin's order and was ready to throw this arrogant little baldy into the abyss. At least he would be scared half to death. Fang Yan looked at Zhang Lin and said, "Isn't it good for everyone to eat obediently? Why do you have to make such a mess? You provoked me for no reason and I beat you up in anger. I'm really tired of this kind of show." Zhang Lin laughed and pointed at Fang Yan and said, "This kid is really interesting. Since you're tired of the act of beating people up, why don't you try the act of being beaten up?" Zhang Lin looked at the black-clothed man and said, "Camel, I want one of his arms." A violent sneer appeared on Camel's face. When he was about to follow the order and break one of Fang Yan's arms, a tender white hand was placed on his arm. "Break." Camel's chi sank to his dantian and shouted angrily. Crack. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. However, it wasn't Fang Yan's arm that was broken, but Camel's arm that was about to break Fang Yan's arm. Just as Camel was about to exert force, a strong force suddenly attacked him. He couldn't resist. His arm tightened and loosened and then he lost control of it. In the eyes of outsiders, they only saw Fang Yan reach out and pat his shoulder. Then Camel grunted and suffered a heavy blow. It was terrifying to break someone's arm so easily. Camel took a few steps back and looked at Fang Yan in horror while holding his broken arm. Zhang Lin also noticed this change and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. He stared at Fang Yan and said, "No wonder you dare to be so arrogant and despotic in the 10-feet abyss. Turns out that you have some skills. Listen to that, it's like bullying people. They came to make you move your table, threatened you and used violence. In the end, when you fought back, they described you as arrogant and despotic. Well, since you said I'm arrogant and despotic, then I'll be arrogant and despotic for once." Fang Yan pushed the chair away and stood up. He walked toward Zhang Lin. Camel was worried that his young master would be injured. He reached out with his good arm and clenched his fist, smashing it heavily toward Fang Yan's face. Clang! His fist was still in the air when Fang Yan punched him in the eye socket. Thud, thud, thud. Camel's body stepped back again and again until he hit a protruding boulder. His eye socket was red and swollen and his vision was blurred. Blood flowed out from the corner of his eye and then slid down his cheek. His appearance was horrifying to look at. Under the pain, Camel's body couldn't stand steadily. He leaned against the boulder and slowly slid down, sitting on the ground. Another slightly shorter bodyguard in black attacked Fang Yan's ribs from the side. Fang Yan turned his wrist and held his fist. With a light pull, the bodyguard in black was pulled in front of Fang Yan. Then Fang Yan punched him in the ribs under the armpit. Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking sounded again. The bodyguard in black screamed and his body softly collapsed. The 2 bodyguards he brought were injured one after another. This was what Zhang Lin didn't expect. This was a dangerous person. He could see it from the fact that Fang Yan didn't even flinch when he knocked down his 2 bodyguards. He finally had a clearer and direct understanding of this seemingly gentle and handsome young man. Want to hit me? Do you know what kind of consequences this will bring to you? Zhang Lin stood there without moving. He was afraid. He wanted to turn around and run away. But he knew in his heart that once he did that, Lu Qingming and the others would kick him away like he was dog shit. Most of the time you know what is right. But you can't do that. Fang Yan smiled and didn't answer. He walked in front of Zhang Lin and stood still waiting for him to continue. You can knock down 2 people? What about 20? What about 200? Zhang Lin thought that the threat was effective and regained some courage. I can casually mobilize hundreds of people to besiege you. At that time it won't be something that can be settled with just one arm. This is your threat? Fang Yan asked with a smile. Fang Yan grabbed Zhang Lin's neck and lifted him up with one hand. Then he walked step by step to the edge of the cliff and threw his body over the railing, leaving Zhang Lin's feet hanging in the air. His hair was messed up and the sound of the wind was in his ears. Below him was a 10,000 feet cliff. If he was a little careless he would fall to his death. Zhang Lin was scared. This time he was really scared. He wanted to open his mouth to speak, but his throat was stuck by Fang Yan, so he couldn't say anything. His face turned purple and his breathing became more and more difficult. He was about to suffocate to death. Even so he couldn't move and didn't dare to resist. Because he was worried that if he struggled a little too much, he would fall into the bottomless abyss. Fang Yan smiled sincerely and said, "You see, this is a threat. You can't even be a hoodlum, what else can you be?" Fang Yan felt that these young masters were too much of a bully. Everything that happened on the cliff was seen by a group of people not far away. Jiang Junling turned to look at a skinny middle-aged man behind him and asked, "Mr. Bao, are you confused?" Mr. Bao shook his head and said, "I know when to advance and when to retreat. I showed mercy. I'm not confused." "Then go help him," Jiang Junling said. Mr. Bao did not say a word. He lifted his small feet wrapped in black cloth shoes and walked in the direction of Fang Yan. Mr. Bao stood in front of Fang Yan and looked at him with a gentle expression. Fang Yan also noticed Mr. Bao and his expression became serious. Fang Yan pointed at Zhang Lin on the ground and said, "You're together?" Mr. Bao shook his head. Who was Zhang Lin to be with them? "So, you're like him, bullying me because you don't like me?" Fang Yan slowly moved to Qin Etien's side and used his body to block in front of her. It was romantic to eat in the Zhang abyss, but it was dangerous to fight. If he was not careful he could easily push someone off a cliff and fall to his death. Fang Yan was afraid that Qin Etienne would be implicated if he got into a fight. "Bully." Mr. Bao was stunned. He laughed and the thin layer of skin on his face piled up together, making him look like a crumpled soup bun. In a martial arts competition the winner is the hero and the loser is the bandit. How is this bullying? Martial arts competition? That's exactly what I'm here for. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "I'm sorry, I'm not competing. As you can see, my student has already cut the beef for me. I'll be old if I don't eat it now." "Half an hour is enough," Mr. Bao said confidently. He was confident that he could finish the battle in half an hour, or rather finish off Fang Yan. Fang Yan looked at Mr. Bao thoughtfully and asked, "Must you compete with me?" "That's why," Mr. Bao repeated. Fang Yan frowned and asked, "Why?" "To defeat you," Mr. Bao said proudly. He was short, but he gave off an arrogant aura that looked down on the heavens. "I'm not obliged to fulfill your wish," Fang Yan said. "Why should I let you beat me just because you want to? It's not up to you." Before he finished his sentence, Mr. Bao clawed at Fang Yan with one hand. His figure flickered and the claw turned into thousands of illusions. Body clone technique. Xingyi Fist's eagle claw became shadowless claw due to Mr. Bao's speed. Xingyi Fist was derived from heart and mind fist. Shape and mind followed the heart and could be controlled as one pleased. Ever-changing and controlled by the heart. A single leaf knows the autumn, and a single clue reveals the general trend. With just one claw, Fang Yan already knew that Mr. Bao was a rare opponent. Putting everything else aside, his palm wolf fist had already reached a level where he could do as he pleased. You're going too far. Fang Yan was furious. It was just a meal. Was there a need to provoke him again and again? Fang Yan clenched his fist and punched through the illusions towards Mr. Bao's wrist. Bang! Like a fierce tiger, the illusion was destroyed. Shape and mind followed the heart. Just as his wrist was about to be hit by Fang Yan's fist, the eagle claw turned into a tiger fist and charged straight at Fang Yan's fist. Fist against fist, flesh against flesh. The two men's fists collided head-on. Silence. A deathly silence. Boom. The sound of something exploding could be heard and a strong cyclone was sent flying back. Pa-pa-pa, Mr. Bao took 3 steps back. Every step was as strenuous as smashing a stone. Chi, the round-mouthed cloth shoes and the stones on the ground created a violent friction. When he stopped, the soles of the cloth shoes had already disappeared. His inner force was channeled and the cloth shoes could not withstand the force. The sole of the cloth shoes was burnt to ashes. Fang Yan sat on the spot without moving, but the wooden chair he was sitting on was destroyed. The 4 legs of the chair broke and collapsed. Pop! The bare cover of the chair fell to the ground. Fang Yan could no longer maintain his sitting posture. He stood up straight and glared at Mr. Bao. I used White Hand to repel the tiger and you used Evil Tiger to dig out the heart? Fang Yan said coldly. White Hand was also known as Snatching Hand. It was a hand-to-hand combat technique. Repelling the tiger was to let the opponent know when to retreat. It was not a killing move that could injure or kill. However, Mr. Bao used Evil Tiger to dig out the heart. With one hand he attacked Fang Yan's fist to lure him in while his other hand went for Fang Yan's heart. If not for Fang Yan's Tai Chi's stickiness, Mr. Bao's tiger claw would have pierced through Fang Yan's chest and dug out Fang Yan's heart. Mr. Bao smiled without saying a word. Deep down he was shocked. Everything he had learned in Xingyi was to play the chicken like a chicken and the tiger like a tiger. Bend down like a chicken and stand up like a tiger. Dispel the chi and dig out the heart. This series of killer moves had always been successful. Countless experts and generals had fallen under his hands. He did not expect Fang Yan to resolve it so easily and force him to take 3 steps back. The fist was afraid of the young man. The young man's inner force was as powerful as the Yangtze River. Mr. Bao had cultivated qi all his life, but he could not shake the young man. You want to kill me? Fang Yan asked. Of course I want to kill you, Mr. Bao said. Fang Yan's face darkened. If it was just a sparring match he could use all his strength without using his killing intent. But if it was to kill someone then, Fang Yan would not sit still. He was afraid of death so he hated those who wanted to take his life. Since when did Dragon Master Bao Shi become someone else's watchdog? Fang Yan stared at Mr. Bao and asked. Bao Shi raised his eyebrows and asked, You know me? There are 2 masters in Xingyi, Southern Dragon and Northern Phoenix. To be able to practice form and will martial arts to this level, I'm afraid only Dragon Master Bao Shi can do it, Fang Yan said sarcastically. It must be very embarrassing for a grandmaster to be seen through and become someone's dog, right? Bao Shi chuckled and said, I found another reason to kill you. When Fang Yan and Mr. Bao were sparring, a man in black came behind Qin Etienne and reached out to grab her shoulder. Qin Etienne, who was cutting the steak with a knife, suddenly turned around and stabbed the knife into the back of the man's furry hand. Crack! The sharp blade went through the man's hand. The man staggered back and screamed in pain. Blood flowed out and a strong smell of blood filled the air. Everyone stared at this scene with their eyes wide open, looking at the girl who was smiling sweetly as she lifted the hem of her red dress and bowed slightly to the surrounding audience. Qin Etienne sat down again and shouted, Waiter, another 12 knives and forks. Chapter 225. No one dared to give Qin Etienne 12 sets of knives and forks. When there was only 1 set of knives and forks, she used that knife to pierce the palm of a burly man. If he gave her 12 sets of knives and forks, do you think other people are stupid? Who would be willing to let you play a piercing game with their palm? The knife was still inserted into the back of his hand and the blade came out of his palm. The blood flowed rapidly and soon the black-clothed man's white shirt was dyed red. He covered his palm and howled. His body was trembling in pain, and his eyes were filled with hatred and fear when he looked at Qin Tian. He swore on his character and his first love that this girl was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. However, why was she so fierce and cruel when she attacked? Wu Yiwei was also stunned. What was going on tonight? What kind of monsters were they? When Qin Tian came, she was responsible for receiving him. When she saw Qin Tian, she was stunned. At that time, she secretly compared the two of them in all aspects. Whether it was appearance, temperament, or aura, the other party was several streets ahead of her. Fortunately, her chest was full, and it made her regain a little confidence as a woman. 3 taels of meat on the chest was worth 100,000 gold. This was very reasonable. In her eyes, this girl, who was so beautiful and charming, had pierced through someone's palm with a knife, and then smiled indifferently and shouted for another 12 knives and forks to be served. Beheading someone while talking and laughing, this was probably the kind of person who could do that. Jiang Junling slightly frowned. He turned to look at Lu Qingming and asked, "Who is that idiot's man?" Lu Qingming didn't know why Jiang Junling was angry, so he quickly explained, "He might be Zhang Lin's man. I saw him get out of Zhang Lin's car. He saw that Zhang Lin was being bullied and insulted by that guy, so he wanted to catch that girl to threaten him." Girl. Seeing Jiang Junling's gentle eyes looking at the girl, Lu Qingming chuckled and said, "Quite a character." "Just character?" Jiang Junling had a meaningful smile on his face. "If that's the case, can she live up to Qin Tian's words?" Qin Tian? Lu Qingming's expression froze. Qin Tian of the Qin family? Perhaps his severely injured and disfigured brother Lu Shu knew more, but this didn't prevent Lu Qingming from knowing some secrets of that level from his own network and circle of friends. The son should be like Jiang Junling, and the adopted daughter must be like Qin Tian. The comment of the Tao addict song transplanting seedlings, who was known as the #1 physiognomist since ancient and modern times, had pushed the two of them to the front of the stage, attracting countless eyes and attacks of jealousy. However, this also proved that the two of them were indeed first-rate young talents. Jiang Junling is the Jiang Junling in front of me, and Qin Tian is the beautiful woman with a calm posture and a smile on her face at the edge of the cliff? Wasn't she still a child? Could it be that the rumors were wrong? Qin Tian of the Qin family, Jiang Junling said. What? Do you regret it? If possible, who would want to provoke the Qin family for no reason? Lu Qingming thought in his heart. However, he couldn't say such words, at least not in front of the man in front of him. He looked at Jiang Junling firmly and said, "Young master, do you want me to have a try?" He was willing to use his actions to prove that he was firmly on the side of Jiang Junling. This was something that was destined a long time ago. Changing one's ways was like betrayal. For these big families, betrayal was a very shameful thing. They would crush it into mud by hook or by crook. "No need," Jiang Junling said in a flat voice. "He's my friend." Lu Qingming didn't understand. Since they were friends, why did he send his ace bodyguard, Dragon Master Baoshi, to challenge them? Dragon Master Baoshi, the king of Xingyi, was a master of internal martial arts. He was known as the most loyal person after Yu Wumu, the founder of Xingyi martial arts. The style of Xingyi martial arts was to fight hard, almost like lightning and thunder. Baoshi was a violent person and countless masters had died in his hands. Moreover, the losers were either dead or injured and few people could pick up their skills again. A few years ago he fought with the nation master Li Zonghao in Yanjing and disappeared miraculously. Everyone thought that Baoshi was defeated by Li Zonghao and had no face to come out again. Unexpectedly, Lu Qingming saw his real body in Huaqing this time. And he lost his identity as a Grand Master of Xingyi martial arts and became a bodyguard of Jiang Junling under the alias Mr. Bao. As if he had seen through Lu Qingming's thoughts, Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan sharply and said, "He is not. He was not a friend, so he fought with him." Was this the logic of Jiang Junling's behavior? Jiang Junling was arrogant, and Baoshi was even more arrogant. Because of Fang Yan's question that a grandmaster became a dog for others, this became one of the reasons why Baoshi wanted to kill Fang Yan. Baoshi looked at Fang Yan coldly and said, "You are so young, but your cultivation is extraordinary. Today let me have a good taste of your supernatural power. A young hero is bound to be praised by others. What I like to do most is to kill miracles." He clenched his fists and his knuckles cracked. His figure turned into a blur, and the entire spine of his body began to make crackling noises. His eyes were wide open and his mouth was tightly closed. The two sides of his cheeks were originally dry, but at this moment they suddenly bulged like a frog holding its breath. The wrinkles on his forehead were faintly discernible. Two horizontal lines and one vertical line formed a clear, dry character. However, with Fang Yan's eyesight and knowledge, he knew that this character was not the dry character but the king character. The king character on the tiger's forehead. Fang Yan was shocked. Someone had mastered the supreme realm of Xing Yi Quan, the battle of dragons and tigers? His body was like a dragon and his face was like a tiger. If the last horizontal line was added, then Bao Shi would have the power of a tiger and a dragon. He could rise like the wind, fall like an arrow, split mountains and cut stones, and cut off the heads of thousands of soldiers and horses. A master. This was a real master. Fang Yan felt the danger. It was as if every inch of his skin, every piece of flesh, and every hair on his body was coveted, and he could face a fatal blow at any time. Fang Yan touched the ground with the tip of his left foot, and gently lifted his right foot to draw a circle in the air. Whoosh! Bao Shi's figure disappeared on the spot and like a miracle he appeared in front of Fang Yan at the same time. A dragon soared in the 9 heavens and a leap of 100,000 miles. Bao Shi's speed was so fast that it gave people a false impression. His upper body rushed to the front of Fang Yan, but his legs were still standing in the original position. His body was split in half by time and space. Roar! He opened his mouth and roared like a tiger. Boom! He punched at Fang Yan's head. It was a straightforward attack. There was no feint and no disguise. The punch was fierce and powerful. He fought with his life and cheered with his chi. He was going to use the tough style of Xingyi boxing to attack Fang Yan and take his life. Before the punch arrived, it was already powerful enough to hurt. Fang Yan's face was burning with pain as if someone was slapping him hard in the face. Just the wind of the punch could hurt people. If the punch hit, there was no doubt that Fang Yan's head would be smashed like a watermelon being hit by a hammer. Fang Yan stood on one foot. When Bao Shi's heavy punch came, his toes were shaking as if he could not stand steadily. Like a willow catkin in the wind, like snow in the wind, like a circle. He handed his body over to Bao Shi. Swoosh! The heavy punch passed through the side of Fang Yan's face, but Bao Shi's body fiercely hit Fang Yan's body. Top martial artists could hurt people with flying flowers and leaves, let alone his body that had been tempered 100 times. Fang Yan's feet swayed again and his body rotated with it. The foot that was raised in the air kept drawing circles. The body was the boat, and the feet were like oars that kept correcting the direction of the boat in the sea. No matter how strong he was, the breeze caressed the hill. No matter how strong he was, the bright moon shone on the river. This was the general principle of Tai Chi, the supreme essence of using soft to defeat hard. Soft Tai Chi, the power of 4 tails of gold. Whoosh! Bao Shi's short body passed through Fang Yan's side, and the two brushed past each other. Roar! He opened his mouth and roared again. Before he could turn around, he had already used his elbow to hit Fang Yan's heart, head, face and other vital parts. Deflate his chi and borrow his strength. Fang Yan did not dodge this time. His palm was like a knife, cutting toward Bao Shi's back as fast as a gust of wind. You've been tricked, Bao Shi shouted coldly, and the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. His arm suddenly stretched out and blasted toward Fang Yan's chest at a speed many times faster than before. This was the real speed of a divine dragon, and this was the real power of the Tiger King. The roar of a tiger and the roar of a dragon. It possessed unfathomable speed and unparalleled strength. It could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth, and it was extremely lethal. Fang Yan's feet landed on the ground and his body took a step forward. Smack! He slapped Bao Shi's face and pressed down on Bao Shi's head, who was rushing toward him. Bao Shi's violent body stopped instantly, and Bao Shi's fist couldn't reach him no matter how hard he tried. Because he was short, his arms were naturally not as slender as Fang Yan's arms. Fang Yan could press down on his face, but he couldn't dig out Fang Yan's heart. It was like a giant pressing down on a dwarf's head, and the dwarf's punches and kicks couldn't touch the giant's skin. Bao Shi punched and Fang Yan punched him in the arm. Bao Shi kicked and Fang Yan kicked him in the joint. As soon as he made a move, Fang Yan blocked all his ways out. Thus, A hilarious scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. The Xingyi master Baoshi's face was squeezed into a bun by Fang Yan for a while, and then his face was squeezed into a dumpling by Fang Yan. Then he was twisted into Garfield, Mickey Mouse and Little Frog by Fang Yan. Fang Yan's fingers kept flicking as he looked at Baoshi and asked, "Do your parents know that you're so cute?" You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.